Hey. Hey. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're all set.
Cool.
I am going to log off myself.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome into our Johns Hopkins Division III virtual student athlete panel. If you don't know me, I'm Connor Newcomb from Hop TV, the voice of Hopkins athletics. And tonight we are going to have 36 Division III student athletes from Johns Hopkins covering 20 different Division III programs here at Hop. Come and join us here via Zoom, live on YouTube if you're watching this. Of course, I'm sure you've used Zoom in the past couple of weeks and months that have been kind of crazy for everyone. But although we're not getting to watch our favorite Hopkins athletes play, thought it would be a great time to show them and show them some support and let you guys get to know them a little better, not just the athlete part, but the student part as well at such a great school as Johns Hopkins University. So tonight we will start with our men's and women's soccer teams. And we should be on until about 8:30 tonight as we get through again 36 different athletes here tonight on this call, and we hope you enjoy. If you have questions for the student athletes on the call tonight, you can submit them in the comments on our YouTube page. As you can see, we have our first group of athletes joining us. It's the men's and women's soccer players for the Blue Jays. And guys, first of all, how's everybody doing? And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves to everyone?
I guess I'll start. My name is Riley O'Toole. I'm a junior on the women's soccer team.
My name's Maddie Rocks, and I just graduated, so senior at Johns Hopkins from the women's soccer team.
My name's Akim Yonker. I'm a senior on the men's soccer team.
Tim Trinan, sophomore on the men's soccer team.
So to get this started, again, thank you guys for joining us tonight. I want to start with kind of Riley and Tim. This question will go to both of you guys because both of you California natives, but you come across the United States to not just play soccer at Hopkins, but get a great education. So what brought you guys, and Riley, you can start, all the way across the U.S. for college?
Well, honestly, it's just Johns Hopkins has a name and it draws you in. And so I wasn't really sure going into my senior year whether or not I was going to be playing soccer in college, but I knew that my number one priority was to definitely go to an academic school. And so as my senior year unfolded and with just the right phone calls and a little bit of luck, I ended up finding myself at like one of the best schools that I could also play soccer at. So it just ended up to being the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. Hopkins provided me with the best opportunity, combination of my want to continue to play soccer and also just a great education, and as well as the aspect of I just wanted to experience something different in college. I've lived in California my whole life, so as great as it is, I kind of wanted to try something different. So yeah, Baltimore gave me the opportunity.
Now switch it. This one will be for Kim and for Maddie. You two came from a lot closer to come to Baltimore, but both of you seniors on your teams this fall. What was your experience like just in the 4 years at Hopkins, both as a student and a player, and what do you think you'll miss most about it? And we'll start with you, Maddie.
Definitely miss the team most. I had the most amazing experience, and I couldn't imagine going any other school and going to college without soccer. So similar to Riley, I wasn't sure as a senior in high school whether I wanted to play or just play club or intramural somewhere. I knew I wanted to continue with soccer, but I'm so happy that I chose to play soccer in college, and lucky that I got the opportunity because just the friends you make and the memories you have on a varsity team are unbeatable. And when I think back to college in general, I think back to all the great memories I have with my team. That was the single best experience I had all of college. So I had a great experience.
Yeah, for me, similar to Maddie, I think I'm just gonna miss the guys on the team. They're definitely grown to be my closest friends. I have a lot of good friends that I'll have lifelong bonds with. So I'm gonna miss seeing them often. And I think another thing that I'll miss, or something that drew me to Hopkins was Baltimore as a city. I think I think it's a very unique city. I've grown to love it, actually, for me personally, and I'm grateful to have been able to volunteer here, work here, and kind of engage with the community. Because being from New Jersey, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, in terms of weather, it's similar, but I'm from suburban New Jersey, so it's kind of a unique place for me, and I'm glad to have spent the past 4 years here.
So Kim, I wanted to stay with you. You know, you were a guy who'd had such a great career, but you missed some time this season, and we're kind of in and out of the lineup because of some injuries and some other things. So, you know, what was that like in your final season, and who helped you within the team and the program to kind of push you to keep coming back out there in your final year?
I mean, mostly, I mean, a lot of the guys were supportive of me. You know, I've had some injury trouble in the past, but so it was nothing new for me. I mean, just a little adversity. But I think for me, my main goal was just team success. That's the only thing I wanted this year. I wanted to win, and I, you know, gratefully, like we got to do that. We won the Centennial Conference Championship, and I think, you know, when I look back on it, you know, 10 years from now, I'm not going to remember, you know, just struggling with injury or any of that little stuff. I'm going to remember, you know, winning that championship at F&M and celebrating with the guys.
And Riley, for you, you know, you missed some time in your sophomore year to come back this year, and get to play on a team that went to the NCAA quarterfinal. You know, how hungry were you, first of all, to get back out there before the season? And I know you guys didn't maybe make it as far as you wanted. I'm sure your goal was to win it all this year, but how satisfying was it to get back on the field and have so much success?
Yeah, it was a long 9 or 10 months out. And I think that just being able to look forward to preseason the entire time, knowing that like, you know, it's May and I'm doing rehab, and just knowing that like August is my time really kept me going. And so when I actually got the chance to go out there, like I felt a little clumsy and awkward at first, but it was a different feeling than when I had been on the field before, because I was just so much like more excited and almost motivated to be out there just because you knew so much about like what you were missing. And it kind of helped you love the game again, I thought.
Maddie, sticking with the women's team for you in your senior year, as I mentioned, you guys make it all the way to the NCAA quarterfinal. You know, what did that feel like to get that far, despite the loss in the NCAA tournament in your final season? And when did you guys feel like, you know, you had a team that could advance that far in the postseason?
Yeah, so obviously, ending a season on a loss is never ideal. And in the moment, we're all upset and disappointed and knew that we had what it took to go further. But when you look back at it as a entire season, we had an incredibly successful year. Getting to the Elite Eight is a great accomplishment, and we also won the Centennial, which is memory I'll have forever, and something we definitely earned. So I think we knew pretty early that this was going to be a really good team. We had a lot of people returning, a lot of experience, people like Riley coming back from injuries, and a great freshman class. So we really were able to get that all together. We always have great team chemistry, but it was extra special this year. So I think we knew throughout the entire season that we had what it took to be successful, and we did achieve some of our goals. So that's good.
Now, Tim, switching over to you, we've got our first viewer question, and it's directed at you. It's from former Hopkins men's soccer goalie Jeremy Ratcliffe, and he wants to know about the beard. He's asking if this was a planned beard for you, or is this a quarantine beard?
A little bit of both. I had been growing out my beard since semester, and a lot of the guys and I had been talking about me growing my beard out until the season, and then like buzzing my head to seem really intimidating. So I have to start it now, so it gets super thick. But I would say, Jeremy, it is more of a quarantine beard than it is a regular life beard.
But Tim, sticking with you, you know, you're the youngest one out of the four here, as far as years at Hopkins, but you came in right away as a freshman and earned a starting role on the team and backed it up with another starting role as a sophomore. What was that like to come into a program with so many good players and win that spot as a freshman? Did you feel any pressure your first year?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, you know, coming in, I was humbly played again with Cole Rosenberger, who graduated about last year. And him being senior, like this big guy, he had the beard too, and it was just really intimidating for me to come in, as a freshman, not knowing any of these guys really, and having to perform. But it was really great because there's so many guys on the team that were very supportive of all of us freshmen, especially some of the guys that got some more playing time. And that's something that I think the men's soccer team, and I'm sure the women's soccer team both value as part of their, as part of their team and part of their culture, to support each other. We're friends for life, brothers for life, sisters for life, and we got each other throughout the whole thing. So it was nice to come in and have that sort of backdrop.
Riley, is that something you guys feel on the women's team too, kind of that camaraderie?
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I was a freshman, I started one of like the early games in the season, and I was really nervous about it because I ended up getting to play over a senior, and like she was injured at the time, but it just felt weird. But it was crazy because coach sent out the starting lineup the night before, and I just received like a ton of texts from our seniors and our juniors and a lot of the upperclassmen that said like, you earned this, like don't be nervous. And it was like the emotion like on and off the field, like I really knew that everyone was like completely like for the team here, and I had earned my spot.
Maddie, going to you, another senior question, but your 4 years, a lot of great moments. Do you have a favorite that you pick out as from your 4 years as a Blue Jay? Could be on or off the field.
That's hard. So many to choose from. Let's see. I think definitely one I'll never forget is winning the Centennial this year. We already touched upon that. But we also won it my freshman year, and I didn't play at all due to injury that season. But the day we won it my freshman year, I still felt the same energy that I felt my senior year when I was able to play and participate. So I think that speaks to the culture on our team, that no matter if you haven't played a second or you played every second of the season, make everyone feel like we're a huge family and we all had a role in our success, no matter on the field or off the field. So I'd say that is something special.
Now, Kim, to you, we've got another viewer question. Drew V wants to know, how do you handle, as someone who's done it for 4 years now, how do you handle the academic rigors of going to a school like Johns Hopkins with the fact that not only are you an athlete, but you're a high-level Division III athlete playing on a great team, and you got to go out there and play for almost 90 minutes twice a week?
I think for me, a big thing is discipline. You have to know what to prioritize, and I think it's a common thing for all student athletes. I mean, we go to an amazing school, a world-renowned institution, and our athletics are, one of the top, like we're one of the top departments in the nation. So I think you're kind of forced to develop those good habits. You have to know when you have to be doing what you need to be doing, and kind of like allotting your time. So just being organized, being disciplined, and developing those skills within yourself.
Now, Riley, I want to direct this one to you, another viewer question. Nicole R says, I'm an incoming freshman coming back from an ACL injury right now and hope to walk on. Are walk-on players making the team common in Hopkins for women's soccer, and then in Hopkins sports have you seen in general?
So luckily with being D3, Hopkins is very open to walk-on players. But usually since we have such a quick preseason, those players are more than welcome to come to all of our captain's practices, all of our lifts, and all of our practices with coach in the spring. And so while I've been here, we've had 2 or 3 girls come try out for the team, and because of different situations, none of them ended up being on the team. But it is like you're given a completely fair shot to come. I think the boys also have the same situation on their team. So it's very much like if you're fit to be on the team, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, just to add to that point real quick, I think for us, it's a similar situation. And I think in the past we've had a couple of walk-on guys, Nate Charndorf, Mikey Swears, Jeremy Ratcliffe, all walk-on guys, but they were significant contributors to the team. And I think that if you have the skills, if you have the focus, and coach can see that within you, then I think you should give yourself a chance.
So we've got one last viewer question for all of you before we let you all go. We'll start with Tim and then just go around and answer. Aiden Dunphy says, if you could go back and tell your incoming freshman self one piece of advice, what would you say?
I would say to just enjoy being a freshman. Enjoy the process of coming in and not knowing anybody. I mean, it's intimidating, but it's a really cool experience to just find people that you love hanging out with, and you'll get that right away with the boys on the soccer team, and other people will hang out with the women's soccer team as well and other teams. But just enjoy the opportunities that are presented to you as a freshman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. I would say definitely don't underestimate yourself. Something I was very nervous about a lot of things my freshman year, but you're at this institution and you're on these teams for a reason. And so you really just need to believe in yourself and go full in and just know that you belong here and you need to earn your spot.
Yeah. And to Aiden, who actually goes to my alma mater, my high school alma mater, I think you just need to be confident in yourself. Like Riley said, just know that you're here for a reason, and just don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, because guys on our team are going to be looking out for you. So just keep that in mind and you'll be all right.
I would say this is going to be cliche, but don't take any minute for granted. I can't tell you how fast my experience at college went. And to have it cut short at the end is a little disappointing. So you never know what's going to happen in the world. You never know if you'll be injured or healthy. But when you do have those great moments, you should not take them for granted and enjoy every second of college.
Well, thank you guys for joining us here tonight to kick off this panel from the men's and women's soccer teams. Tim Trinan, Akim Yonker, Maddie Rocks, and Riley O'Toole. Thank you so much. And you guys stay safe during this crazy time, and we hope we see you back on campus, at least for Tim and Riley in the fall. But thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
All right, so that was men's and women's soccer. Both of those teams, great runs this year. The men's team making it to the NCAA second round, the women's team all the way to the NCAA quarterfinals. And next up, men's and women's track and field and men's and women's cross country joining us here. And some of the most successful programs for Hopkins at the Division III level. Of course, the women's cross country team winning the national championship this year, their 6th title all time, as head coach Bobby Van Allen helping his runners to another national championship in women's cross country this season. And some runners and some field athletes who definitely know a lot about winning, again, with the cross country national championship and the countless honors in track and in cross country, as we are joined by our 4 athletes here for this one. And got to give respect to our first athlete to go with the Zoom background today. So we'll start with Andrew, have everybody introduce yourself, and then Andrew also introduce us to your background there as well.
Hi, I'm Andrew King. I'm a senior, going to be graduating this spring, and this is Bobby Van Allen, our fearless leader.
Kristen, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Kristen. I'm also a senior, and I'm going to be graduating this spring. I'm a cross country distance runner, but also do track.
I can go. I'm Annie Gutierrez. I'm a junior, so I'll be graduating next year. I'm a pole vaulter and a multi, so I do the heptathlon.
And I'm Justin Kennedy. I'm a sophomore, and I'm a multi, and a major in computer science.
So we have our track and field and our cross country athletes here, and well, first of all, down there, Andrew mentioned head coach Bobby Van Allen and has him right behind him. So, Andrew, I'll start with you. Tell us about Coach Van Allen and what makes him so successful.
I think it's just that really he gets us super well. I mean, in a literal sense, he's behind me right now, but in a figurative sense, he's behind us all the time. You know, he just is the most understanding stand-up guy. And we just have countless praise about him. He's just always so understanding. Every time you go into a meeting with him, no matter what problem you got, you come out feeling like you could tackle the world. So he's just very motivating and smart too.
And to Kristen, he helped, lead you guys to the 6th national championship in program history for women's cross country. But what was that like being a part of that this season, especially for you in your senior campaign?
It was incredible. I mean, freshman year coming in, we had lost the year before, and it was at the same course as my freshman year. So I had seen firsthand what it feels like to go back and redeem ourselves on that course and win after coming off of a 4th place loss 4 years ago. So running a nationals was something I just always wanted to do. I had never gotten the chance to do that. So to go back and reclaim the national title my senior year it was pretty special. But Bobby just knows how to coach. Everyone has an individual training plan, and he knows what to do to get us to peak performance in late November. And I can't thank him enough for everything he's done for me in the program this year and all the years before.
Now, I think all you guys are kind of, at least from my perspective, had the most interesting situations with these seasons being cut short, because you got cross country season in and you got most of indoor season in, but you got no outdoor season. So Justin, I want to go to you. You get these centennial championships this year in the high jump and the long jump. It might take me a while to rattle it all off, but what was it like to still get those honors and complete a chunk of your season, but then kind of have the rest of it taken away as well?
It was definitely nice to have a successful season this year, and it was a good start to this semester with that success. And I guess going in the future, it makes me think that I could have more future success. And it was kind of sad that it got taken away, for the outdoor season coming off of that success, because I think I could have done some great things along with my teammates too, who also got it taken away from them as well. And as a program as a whole, we were having a really good, indoor season, and it would have carried well to the outdoor season. It's just sad to see that taken away.
And the same kind of question to you, winning the indoor pole vault and the high jump and the pentathlon at the Centennial Championships, and then not being able to really continue your season further. What was that balance like, knowing you got to win those things and perform amazingly, but on the other hand, you missed out on your outdoor season as well?
Yeah, well, thank you first. But I don't know. Definitely, we've been talking a lot within our team about being grateful for the time we had, because like Justin said, like we did do some amazing things this season in cross country, even though we didn't really get to participate in that because we don't run cross country, but it was still nice to see our team do such awesome things. And then our training group specifically did super well this season. And I know that everyone was just going to keep progressing to do well for outdoors. So we've kind of had to shift gears a little bit and kind of broaden the horizons to look towards next year already, which can be kind of tough because it's so far away, or it feels so far away. But I don't know. It's been a group effort to try to keep everyone on track.
Now, back to Kristen. I know I asked you about the national championship already, but just to be, a part of not only a women's cross country program that has had so much success, and you can pretty much, pencil you guys in as number one in the country when the season starts, but just in general, the track and field and cross country at Hopkins, what's it like to be, a part of kind of that entire family that has so much success?
I mean, it's awesome. First of all, it's not just like 30 distance runners that went out and won like a national championship. When we do that, it's for everyone. And I think the whole team feels that success, all 110 of us approximately. And I think that makes it a lot easier knowing that there's so much support behind you going into big races like that. it's really special to go from something like cross country and know that going into track, we are at the same level, and we were really going to challenge for those top team spots in track as well. So it's hard being a senior knowing that like cross country was kind of the last big event with the team I'll get to experience, but I know that for people moving forward and just like looking back on it, like this year already has been so incredible. I can only imagine what we would have done.
Andrew, to you, I see the Maryland flag hanging behind you. We had just talked to women's soccer and men's soccer. We had a couple of players from those teams who came from California to go here. You're from right in the area from Lutherville. So what was the biggest thing that drew you to Hopkins?
I'm not gonna lie, Hopkins was not my first choice school. I didn't get into some of the ones that I was looking at and was looking to get away, but was extremely pleasantly surprised when I got here to find that I think it was a very good match, more so than I was giving it a lot of credit for. It checks all the boxes of things that I was looking for and doesn't even feel like I'm in the same, I'm at home at all. So it was serendipitous in some sense that it worked out so well for me.
And similar question to you, Annie, but a little different. You're out of the 4 people here from the furthest away from Baltimore. So was it a little different in what brought you to Hopkins?
Yeah, so similar to Andrew, I kind of knew I wanted to get away from home. Also similar, Hopkins was not my top choice, but I think, again, it ended up being a great fit. Something that drew me to Hopkins was when I came to visit, it happened to be the weekend of the home track meet. And instead of letting me know that they were too busy for me, Jim, the pole vault coach, was just like, oh, come down to the pole vault, like I'll be officiating. So I went down and I met all the girls, even though they were competing. So they kind of took time out of their meet to talk to me when they were in the middle of jumping. So that was like a huge, I don't know, it just showed that they really cared about like getting recruits and like broadening the team. So meeting them kind of sealed the deal for me.
Staying with you, Annie, for one of the more niche events in track and field, what and when did you, or what got you into it, and when did you get into pole vaulting and knew it would be something that you wanted to do and could do at the college level?
So I got into vaulting, I think my sophomore year of high school, a little bit freshman year. My high school coach, we always said he has a talent for just looking at people and seeing what they can do. So I was doing a ton of events during high school, which lends well to the multi now, but he just put me involved because I had one of the best pole vaulters I've ever known. She was on my team and she has the Florida state record for pole vault. So we kind of needed someone to try to step up after she graduated because she was a senior and I was a sophomore. So that just kind of got me into it. I didn't really start to think that I would get seriously looked at until pretty much senior year is when I started to kind of come on that upward trajectory. So I don't know. After I got into Hopkins, I reached out. I didn't go early, and I also didn't reach out to the coaches before I applied. So I kind of just got in and then showed up, said, hey.
Sometimes it can work out like that, but Justin, for you as someone else who competes in a lot of events, it kind of seems like a simple question, but do you have a favorite event to compete in, especially when you're out there at an event like the Centennial Championships and you took home a lot of hardware, but is there one that kind of means the most to you when you win it?
I think it depends on the day or how I'm feeling, which event. Usually it's the like high jump would be one of my top events because in high school that's the event I focused on the most. So I like high jump the most. But then there's other fun ones like hurdles, which I started doing in college, which I really enjoy. I think it's always fun to go out there and go over hurdles and fear falling over them. Yeah.
Kristen, to you, for someone who's now done it for your 4 years, what was it like to balance a academic schedule like Hopkins and combine it with being an athlete who's involved, your season it lasts longer than a lot of other people's as well?
Yeah, so we're competing all year, which is kind of different from a lot of other sports here. We don't necessarily get a break. I think that the team really helps make that a lot easier. We have a lot of resources within the team. There's always someone who's older than you, who's done it before, who can give you advice on classes and help you out with like harder classes. So that's great. I think that the staff on board in the athletic administration also is incredible. You've got the life design lab to help you find career opportunities. Bobby always knows who to refer you to. And if like something personal is coming up and you really need help with a class, we have our sports administrator, Rick, who's really great about working stuff out like that. And I think just like knowing that you have all those resources is invaluable. And the team really helps facilitate those connections. And that makes it a lot easier to manage. And I think just knowing that everyone else has gone through it makes it easier when you're a freshman. Like, you know, it's possible. And beyond academics, like so many people on our team are involved in other things as well, especially research. So to know that people are going above and beyond athletics and academics, it just shows you that more can be done, and it shouldn't be necessarily stressful if you manage your time.
Andrew, to you, you know, for people who maybe see cross country or track as more individualized sports, which in some sense they are, you know, what do you tell them about how this is, you know, still a team event at the end of the day?
You know, I'm actually glad that you asked that question, because that relates a lot to why I started running and still run all these years later. Is that really the whole time I've just done it because I love the team that I've been on, and that's what makes our Hopkins team so special. Like, sure, you know, sure you could go somewhere and do good training and run a really fast time, but you know, our program I think is special because everyone is so close to each other and we just gel so well as one unit, and it just makes all those you know, all those long runs, those miles that sometimes you don't want to be putting in, those hard workouts, all that much easier, and really helps make you better. It's easier to do all the little stuff when everyone around you is doing it as well, and you look up to them and they look up to you. So that's how I kind of view our team.
So last thing will be for each of you, and I'll stay with you, Andrew, for the final thing. We know you guys have a little more time on your hands now as everybody's staying home, but either a book, movie, or show recommendation for people to watch or consume during their quarantine now.
Book, movie, or show. Let's see. There's a couple go-to shows that me and the people that I live with have on repeat. Those would be some variation of The Office, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Some number of those are always on in our house pretty much.
Kristen, any recommendations?
This is music, but I just listened to the new The Strokes album. I really like that. Shows, this is pretty popular right now, but I just watched Tiger King and that was pretty good. Yeah.
Justin?
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on Netflix.
And Annie?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, probably on Hulu.
Good choice to finish it off with. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking some time tonight. Our men's and women's track and field and cross country athletes, stay safe out there, and thanks so much for taking some time to do this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connor.
All right, so those were our athletes from men's and women's cross country and track and field courses I mentioned at the top, and we talked about women's cross country, one of two teams to win a national championship this year in Hopkins sports, their 6th of all time. As coming up next, we will hit the hardwood here as the men's and women's basketball teams are joining us here. And looks like Ken's is upside down, but we might just have to roll with it. There we go. All right, we've got our men's and women's basketball teams here, and we'll start with you, Joey, and everybody just go around and introduce yourselves real quick.
I'm Joey Kern. I'm a junior right now from Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm an electrical engineering major. And
I'm Mac. I'm a senior, graduating in May. I'm an economics major.
I'm Kenz. I am a senior and neuroscience major.
I'm Diara. I'm a sophomore. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm public health and English.
So we've got 4 athletes and 2 teams here who had a lot of success inside of Gold Farm Gymnasium this year. Joey, I want to start with you for, your team to get Connor back this year at point guard, to have some guys, including yourself, really step up this season and finish with 24 wins. I know it didn't end the way you guys wanted, but when you look back on this season, what was it like to have really one of the best, at least regular seasons in program history?
It was really a good time. Something to highlight was like every day, it wasn't a chore to come into practice. I mean, we had great guys all around. We were fairly young, so it was cool to see the dynamic evolve throughout the year. And more than just the wins and the losses, it was a really good time hanging out, seeing the dynamic. The young guys really stepped up throughout the entire year. I thought they may start slow with having never played college basketball before, but they really found their role right away and excelled. And on the Connor point, it was great to get him back, obviously an All-American in multiple different polls. So it was great.
Ken's, over to you. You guys saw 4 starters leave the team from last year, 4 seniors who were amazing for this program. But what made you guys able to really put in 4 new faces into the starting lineup, and really everybody who came back got their minutes upped from last year? And how were you guys still able to win 17 games and be one of the best teams in the Centennial this year?
I think a big part of that was the chemistry we had this year. We knew since bringing 7 freshmen in, there was going to be a completely new dynamic. We were going to be such a young team that we really had to build a strong foundation, especially beginning like back in the summer, to make sure that our team could just hit the ground running as soon as we were all on campus. And I think that definitely helped to play up our strengths when it came to being on the court together. We just kind of flowed a lot more naturally.
Diara, a fantastic season for you in your sophomore year. You're leading the team in scoring, but you were the only returning starter. And even though you were a sophomore, as Ken's just mentioned, with all the freshmen, you were one of the older players on the team still in your sophomore year. So what was that like, just almost feeling like a veteran player, even though you were only in your second year?
Well, Jess helped a lot just because she was a starter before I was, so she kind of like guided me through it. And then I still had like 2 or 3 people older than me to like guide me every day. And then Coach Bixby and Bridget, during practice, they kind of like helped me into that role. So it wasn't like I was pretty much thrown into it. I was more like eased in it. And then our freshmen, they were like very receptive of everything I had to say. So just overall, like our team like made it very easy for me to be in that role.
And then Mac, for you, we know you struggled with the injuries after your freshman year, really, and were never able to get fully back. But what was the moment like for you, and what did it mean to you to get on the floor on senior day and get yourself in the stat sheet in your final game, at least in the regular season at Gold Farm?
Well, it was cool. I actually wasn't sure I was going to enter the game because, who knows. But when he said that I could go in there and just touch the floor one last time, it definitely felt cool. It was a long road for sure, but it's guys like Joe and guys like the rest of the team that really make it worth it. And I'm so glad I stayed on for all 4 years.
And you're someone who saw kind of this team go through it for 4 years, you and Harry being the only seniors, and I know your career ends with Hopkins, but you look at the team that comes back next year with so many younger guys. Even though you won't be a part of it, is there still an excitement to see these guys come back next year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just Joe and Connor for sure; those 2 are going to play a big role, but also the younger guys. We have a great recruiting class coming in too. Throughout the year, you could tell that guys were really evolving and becoming leaders in their own right. And I think that the program's in really good hands, especially with that incoming freshman class. And I mean, there's really nothing to say other than they're going to have a great year.
And Ken's, to you as a senior as well, your guys seniors on the team this year, including yourself, even though you weren't starters, still played a big role on the team. Was there still a leadership role for all of you seniors, even though you maybe weren't the highest scoring players on the team this year?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. We took a big responsibility in making sure that everybody felt at home and felt like they could come to us if they needed anything both on and off the court. So especially just having such a young team and not as many experienced players, like obviously it was great having DR come back as a starter, but a lot of the girls who gained more minutes this year obviously didn't get that much playing time before. So kind of just watching the whole process over the last 4 years and able to like impart some of that wisdom on the team, I think was definitely a big role that we played.
Now, Joey, we've got a viewer question. It's from Thomas Quarry. I don't know if you know him, but he asks, was it fun playing in an NCAA tournament game?
Absolutely. I mean, the entire year you're looking towards getting to the tournament. That's what you dreamed of as a kid. You're in your basement at 8, 9, 10 years old, counting down on the clock, like hitting shots. You're imagining yourself in the NCAA tournament. So no matter what the setting's like, even like having no fans, which is definitely different, it's always fun to play in March Madness. So thanks for the question, Tom. Yes, it was a good time.
Diarra, to you, you stepped up into a bigger role this year, and someone else who really stepped up was Emily Howie in her freshman year, and now you guys will get a good amount of time together to continue playing together for the next 2 years. So is that something that can really get you excited for next season, knowing both of you will come back and listen, you'll get the whole starting lineup back from last year?
Yeah. Howie, when she came on her visit, like we all just kind of like had this vibe from her that she really loves basketball. And so that's the thing I think I'm most excited about with her. And that's also something our recruiting class coming in right now, they all just like have this like energy about basketball that I'm really excited for like the next 2 years.
Kenz, you mentioned a little bit having 7 freshmen on the team, and it seemed like all 7 of them almost at some point kind of got their time to, really fill a role and be a part of the team. What was it like to be on a team with so many freshmen and being that leadership role, but also having so many new faces come in on one team at one time?
I think initially it was a little bit nerve-wracking, just not really knowing how we would all work together, but it was extremely exciting as soon as we all were here and we were able to play together. We joke around all the time that like I think of them as my kids. Like I love every single person on our team, and especially the younger freshmen, just being able to be somebody that they could look up to was like more than I could have asked out of this season, I think, than any other year I played Hopkins or high school, just in general.
JR, this one will go to you because you're the shortest time removed from the college recruiting process. Just a question from a viewer, tips for high school athletes now on how to handle that recruiting process?
I would just say play freely. Coaches just want to see people who are going to compete and really love the game, because I think right now we have a culture of being too cool to work hard. So I just think doing that and being really communicative with the coaches that you have established some relationships with, I think that'll go a long way.
And for Joey and for Mac as well, what brought you guys from Iowa and Colorado to Baltimore?
Mac, you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. So I went on a couple visits actually. I visited when Coach Nelson was still here, and one of the things I noticed immediately was the guys gelled so well together. It seemed like they were all really welcoming. Not only was the team really good and we had great seasons before I got there, but it looked like we were going to be good for years to come. And then we saw that with Coach Leffler come in too. So it was cool for me. I looked at it more honestly from the perspective of, can I also succeed academically and athletically, and can I also, gel well with the team? And it's guys like Joe that I've known for a couple of years now. And like Joe and I talk probably every 2 hours, and we're going to be friends for a really long time, probably forever. So that's the kind of thing that really appealed to me when I first visited. And it's the kind of thing that makes it worth it.
Yeah, going off what he said, on my visit, I came a couple weeks after their season had ended, and you could still tell everybody how much they love basketball. And that's kind of the first thing I was looking for, was a family that I could get something super in common with, which obviously is going to be basketball. But to see how much everybody cared about it right after their season had ended, it was end of March still. It was really something special, and they weren't tired of recruits coming. I mean, I came super late. They're open with welcoming arms. They were just a great group of guys. So definitely the main reason I came here was because we were good at basketball. I could get a good education, and because the group of guys were guys that I would want to be around for the rest of my life. So.
Now, Joey, we're getting a lot of questions in the comments section right now about the sticky notes on your wall. If you would like to answer, you can, about what the sticky notes are.
I've gotten a lot of questions about these. I'm in my mom's workroom right now, and she's a life coach. So if you need a life coach, here's a little plug. Just email me or something. She's got a lot of positivity quotes up here. So that's what the sticky notes are. Daily.
What's your favorite?
There's too many. I don't know. I don't like the Snoop.
Okay.
DR, kind of on the recruiting question a little bit, but having your sister go through it before you did with Purdue, did that help you? Having seen her go through it, and then just in the college basketball career in general, she had a great 4-year career at Purdue, and she got to do it a little bit before you, so you could see her go through it.
Yeah, hers was a lot different than mine because I had a lot of injuries. So she's her recruiting process when she was in like 8th grade, whereas like mine didn't start until I was like a sophomore, junior in high school because I tore my ACL like 3 times. So like mine kind of came more from like my coaches reaching out, like my AU coaches reaching out, whereas like hers was just like they saw her and they're like, oh, she's good. So I think the only thing that like she modeled for me was that the right school will come to you, like, and you'll know it once you see it. And like, so that kind of spoke to me once I got on the Hopkins campus, and I was like, okay, like I want to be here. Like, so that's pretty much like the only similarities in our recruiting process. And then, sorry, what was your other question?
The college career in general, how did she help you, just go through being a college athlete?
Well, she kind of like, she's engineering, so I knew her, like her experience is going to be a little different than mine, but she kind of explained to me like her role and like what people expected of her. And just because we're very similar players, like she knew that I was going to have like a similar thing. So she just kind of like got me prepared for that and like the mental state of it. And then just like made sure that I was like keeping up with my workouts and everything so that I would be prepared like going into the season.
Now another viewer question. It's asked to Diarra, but everybody can answer. Another guy you guys might know. It's from Chid Nake. He asked, how do you guys maintain high academic standards at a school like Hopkins during this quarantine lockdown phase?
Well, honestly, it's guys like Chid that keep me in check. He talks to me a lot, and honestly, that kid is a workhorse, and he studies all the time. So if he's not if I don't see Chid studying, it really demotivates me. But he's always in the workroom, so he really keeps me going.
I'm gonna piggyback off Mac. Chid is also public health, so and pre-med, so we have a lot of classes together, and we're always like texting back and forth, like studying or doing homework assignments and stuff. So yeah.
Kenz and Joey, anything to add?
No.
I just say maybe keeping like a good structure is definitely helpful. I mean, there's not really that much else to do, so you might as well get your schoolwork done.
Definitely scheduling out your day a little bit. You need some sort of organization, but the main takeaway is having Chid there, pretty much.
Kenz, I'll give this one to you. Another viewer question, but when you were, being recruited / choosing schools as well, how much does it play into a factor that, okay, I want to go play basketball somewhere, but, I'm going to a school like Johns Hopkins with, the academic success that it has, and how do you kind of balance those two things when not only are the schools recruiting you, but you're the one making that final decision?
I think a very big part of that is watching other people be able to do it. So for me, I knew that Hopkins was going to be extremely difficult, especially just studying what I wanted to study. And I didn't really want to give up any academic opportunities just to play basketball. So watching some of the older girls that I had known, especially starting on my recruiting visit, I had Lexi and Rory were my hosts. And so just kind of talking to them and seeing how they were able to manage things and just watching them be successful before I even came here really gave me a positive outlook that it could be done. And then once I got here, I realized that even though the academic rigor of this school is definitely something that's kind of well known, it's pretty difficult. It's not unattainable, and it's not something that's like that difficult to do if you just put your mind to it and really focus.
All right, so one last thing, question to all of you, and We'll start with Mac. Across the board, men's and women's basketball is a great combined successful season on the hardwood. So you can either go personally or team-wise, favorite moment of the 2019-2020 season.
Favorite moment? Man, I would have to say like a collection of moments. I would say probably just going out to eat on road trips. Basketball-wise, probably winning the Centennial Conference Championship, but I mean, there's no substitute for just hanging out with the guys. And the best time to do that is when we're all just sharing a meal. And we don't get to do it that often unless we're on the road because everyone's so busy. But just the people honestly make it worth it for me. So I would say going out to eat.
Joey?
What kind of restaurant, Mac? What was your favorite restaurant?
Any restaurant where you're sitting next to me is the best restaurant.
Thanks, Mac. My favorite moment of the season, basketball related, it's probably got to be Connor's game winner. I mean, I knew it was in, so it wasn't as exciting for me, but a lot of people were excited by it. So that's definitely a top moment basketball wise. But yeah, just having people over to our place or going out to eat, just hanging out with everybody, getting a pizza or something at Home Slice. Those were the best moments off the court. So
Yeah.
Mine was us beating Haverford on senior night. That was like super cool. And then right before the season started, the seniors hosted a lip sync at their house, and that was fun. So
Yeah, I probably have the same favorite moment basketball. I was definitely knocking off Haverford, especially because it was a senior night game. Just last time we were going to be on Homewood, so that was really cool. And then non-basketball related would probably be the karaoke our team did. We love doing that, so it was always a great time having everybody over.
And one last thing, we got one question thrown in at the end directed at Diarra. She says, "Hi Diarra, I'm a junior who was injured all junior year and really want to still play college basketball. How do you recommend that I stay in touch with college coaches, while she wasn't able to play?"
I would say that like use your high school coaches and your travel ball coaches to reach out to coaches. And if you've already have established some relationships, and keep emailing them and texting them, calling them and everything to see if you can like set up visits and everything. And right now I know visits are hard. So we did a Zoom interview with one of our incoming freshmen who just recently committed. Hey, Greta, she's watching. And that was like a good substitute. So there's like a lot of different options right now.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight, Mac, Diarra, Kenz, and Joey, and congrats on the great seasons you guys had, and continue to stay safe.
Thanks, Connor. You too.
I wanted to compliment your mustache before I left.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal mustache, by the way.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
So that was men's and women's basketball teams. Of course, they mentioned it. Joey Kern saying the Centennial Conference Championship, and Connor Delaney hit the game winner up at Swarthmore. And next up, our men's and women's fencing athletes will join us here as we continue our Zoom meeting here, as we've got 2 student athletes from women's fencing, 2 from men's fencing. And starting with Erica, why don't you guys just go around and introduce yourselves real quick?
Yeah, my name is Erica. I'm a sophomore. I'm studying environmental science, and I fence women's foil.
I'm Erin. I'm a senior, a molecular cellular biology major. I fence saber.
My name is Ishan. I'm a junior. I fence foil, and I'm majoring in applied math and statistics.
I'm Jake. I'm a junior saber fencer studying biomedical engineering.
All right, so I want to start with Erica because I think this is a question a lot of people might have if they're talking to college fencing student athletes. And this is going to go to all 4 of you. What got you into fencing, and when did that happen in your lives, when you knew, like, not only this is something I like, but this is something I want to do in college?
Yeah, I got into fencing when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And basically what happened, one of my mom's friends, her kid doing it, she's like, "Hey, Erica should try fencing." Okay. So I tried it. I wasn't really attached to any other sport at the time. I tried various other normal sports. And fencing just really stuck with me because it's so engaging, like both physically and mentally. It's just always so exciting to do.
Yeah, I started freshman year of high school. My high school had a fencing team, and there was like a club nearby, like 20, 30 minutes away. And I was like, I'll check it out. So I went over to the club, tried a little bit, and I really liked it. So I joined the high school team and like fell in love with the sport. As like Erica's saying, it's like a good combination of like physical, like it's like a good combination of like physicality and mental like strategy and stuff. And I found that really fun. So I continued it through high school and then found out that colleges had it too, and then continued outside of school and then ended up at Hopkins.
Like Erica and Aaron, I started at 12, 13 years old. And I started at a local club near home because I watched the London Olympics and fencing just looked really cool. Decided to try it out. I played soccer before, so a little bit of that translated well into fencing in terms of like cardiovascular endurance and all of that. But I think that sort of after doing a couple tournaments, I realized I like the competitive aspect, engaging physically and mentally, and I decided that I wanted to do it in college, just to continue it for another 4 years at least. So narrowed things down, decided to apply to Hopkins and have enjoyed my experience at Hopkins fencing.
Yeah, so I also started my freshman year of high school, and I thought it was really cool that my high school had a fencing team. So I came out, really enjoyed it. And when it came time to apply to colleges, both my mom and her brother had fenced for Yale back in the day, and they really loved their college fencing experience. So I decided to continue in college.
Now, Ishan, this is something that you mentioned in that answer right there, and obviously it stinks that we won't get the Summer Olympics this year as they're moved to next summer. But for you guys personally, and then in general, how much do you think just seeing that on television every 4 years grows the sport and gets people interested in it?
I think you can sort of, at least being from California, we're one of the big fencing hubs. And the other one is New Jersey, where Jake and Aaron are from. So I think that sort of every couple of years, you see a new burst in increasing fencing activity, especially for younger kids. So I think that going back to my club at home in San Francisco, I think I'm able to see new kids joining every couple of years. And it's interesting that it's sort of after the Olympics, because I think, especially for fencing, it's not usually televised. We don't televise World Cups, Grand Prix, and all of that. But with everyone able to see the Olympics on mainstream TV, like on ESPN, is really great for the sport.
When we were younger, local tournaments, even national tournaments, they might have been like very, very small, maybe only like 20 people. But now you go to national tournaments and in one like round of competition, there can be like 300 people.
Yeah, especially in the international level now, we have like people who are doing really, really well from the US. Like Daryl Homer and Ipti, and like they're bringing a lot of publicity to the sport, which is really cool. Because as Erica said, when you go to competitions now, there's so many people and it's like wild. And it's really cool seeing the influx of new people.
Yeah, especially with the success of the U.S. Medaling at the Olympics the past a couple Olympics. It's really been great to see that on TV and how many people that's brought into the sport. So
this one's for you, Aaron. You maybe don't get to fully finish your career, but your 4 years at Hopkins, you finish as the career wins leader with 364 victories in your career. And so when you look back on your 4 years, and although the last one didn't end like everyone wanted to see it end, with sports being canceled at the end there, what will you remember most when you look back on your 4 years as a fencer? Definitely
the team. I think the community that I found with the fencing team, they became my family, my closest friends. And I don't think, the accomplishments were like a good bonus, but the highlights of my time at Hopkins were for sure like hanging out with my friends with practice. I live with one of my teammates, and I hang out with them, I study with them. So it's definitely their support and like getting to know them really well was definitely the highlight of my 4 years. And we were pretty lucky, I think, with our season ending right before we went onto quarantine. So I was very grateful for that. But we still keep in touch on Zoom, like when we study together during this quarantine. So it's definitely making it a lot easier. So it was a shame that my senior year or all of our years had to get cut short a little bit. But I think having the team there during this quarantine to make it a lot easier too.
This one will go to Jake. It's a viewer question, but anyone can add on after him if they'd like. Just kind of a simple question, but I think it's something people want to know about more of a niche sport like fencing. What is a training schedule like for a college fencing athlete?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll train 6 days a week. So our 5 weekdays we'll have 1 or 2 lifts, and we'll have a fencing practice for the remainder of those days. Then we also have one night each week where each squad gets together, and they break out and they just do a couple hours of bouting with each other, and you can get in a lot of bouts and competition practice. Then over the weekend we normally have one extra weightlifting session with the strength and conditioning staff.
And question here from Ryan Wolowski in our YouTube comments. I'll direct this one to Erica. How do you manage college meets, U.S. fencing tournaments, the Hopkins academic load, and then also just being a college kid and having a social life?
It's a great question. It's definitely a challenge. It's one that I think we all go through together. So definitely having support of the team there really, really helps. Like younger fencers, when they come into our team, we always tell them, or I was told when I was a freshman, like if you need help academically, any of the fencers have probably taken one of the classes you've taken. So they're more than willing to help you out, which has been like incredibly wonderful. And with competitions, during the most intense part of our season, we'll be traveling like 5 weekends in a row. And that gets pretty intense. But it's really kind of like that short burst. It's a sprint of 5 weeks, and then after that it's over.
Erica, I want to stay with you for the next question because you are the closest removed from, kind of the school decision process being a sophomore. What is there a lot of recruiting that's done from coaches? Is it more on your end to pick the school and go to the fencing team? And if there is the recruiting a lot done, is it done at these big national tournaments most of the time?
Yeah, so obviously like going along with the very strict rules of NCAA recruiting, within fencing, unless you're one of the top fencers, you generally have to be the one to reach out to the coach. So when I was applying to colleges, I emailed a whole bunch of coaches from Div 1, Div 3 schools, both of them. And I just kind of, after I emailed them, then I would go tour the school and hopefully be able to meet with the coach and maybe meet the team and be able to see their facilities. And I think that was a really big part of my decision, was being able to like see the campus.
Ishan, you mentioned you're from California. What brings you, all the way across the United States for school?
Yeah, I think it was a couple things. I realized that growing up in California, I was born and raised in the Bay Area, so I wanted to experience something new. I never really lived on the East Coast, so I realized that it was something that I wanted to adventure and try out. And something else that was important was the fencing scene out on the East Coast. On the West Coast, there's only a handful of schools that have collegiate fencing programs, and I realized that that I wanted to fence in college, and that was something that was very important for me personally. And out on the East Coast, we have a great college fencing conference. We're in the toughest conference actually, but it's really rewarding to fence these good schools every week in the spring semester when we travel. So that's something that also prompted my decision.
Now, kind of a similar question that we've, kind of talked about a little bit, but I'll give this one to Jake. Andrea Shang asks, how will the recruitment process and just kind of your schedules for both high school and college fencers in general be affected by summer nationals and summer competitions all being canceled?
Well, I mean, as far as the recruiting process, we can look back further into your results, but also this is something that I'm sure coach is very aware of, and he'll be more than he'll be super receptive to email, and if you want to give him a call, and I'm sure filling out the recruiting questionnaire online would also be a good place to start. So.
This next one we'll go to all of you and kind of we'll go around. We'll start with Aaron though, because being your senior year, how has your kind of outlook on Hopkins, on the team, and what you got out of all of this change from day one on freshman year until your final day with the team?
I think I really enjoyed my time at Hopkins. I think I grew a lot in just the different experiences I had being part of the team, academically and extracurriculars. I think outlook-wise, I think I learned to focus more on like the positive things and not worry as much about what other people are doing, and like compare myself to other people, and just to realize that like, because after when you come to Hopkins, you meet so many incredible people. Everybody's good at their own thing and everybody's amazing. So in the beginning, it definitely was very overwhelming. You're like, oh, everybody's so cool, and like I'm not doing enough kind of thing. So I think by the end of senior year, I kind of realized that like everybody is like really, really awesome. Just to learn what you can from other people and to move on and grow as the way you can and be the best person you can. So I think that's definitely the biggest thing I've learned at Hopkins.
Jake and Ishan, for both of you guys, being juniors, what's kind of changed for you and since day one freshman year to now?
I guess I can go first. I think that going off of what Aaron said, I think coming in as a freshman, not really knowing what to expect, both in terms of the team, like the fencing aspect of being at Hopkins, as well as academically. I think that coming in, I really had a mindset where I was going to do as many things as possible, meet as many people as possible, and do so many things and try and be good in all of them. But going up till junior year, I focus on fencing. I'm on the student investment team. I'm trying to TA next semester, like just doing a handful of things that I think I can excel at. And especially doing fencing is super rewarding, and it does take a lot of time. And I think that's also allowed me to build strong time management skills. Like one of the questions you asked previously, I wouldn't really have as much of a strong work ethic if it wasn't for fencing. So I think that focusing only on 3 things and trying to do as well as possible in all of them.
Yeah, I think for me, when I came in as a freshman, I was pretty intimidated by everything, because there's so many opportunities and so many really smart people out there. But, over the years, I've sort of realized that, everyone is super accepting and willing to help you out. And I think, the big takeaway I have is you should learn as much as you can from all these really amazing people here, because there's so much that everyone's
And then Erica, to you finally, what have you learned? What have you taken away? I know it's for you, it's only been the 2 years, but what have you learned in those 2 years?
Yeah, in freshman year, I was, like very wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, I guess, as one is as a freshman. I guess I haven't lost that too much, I don't think, in sophomore year. Maybe, I don't know. But I really actually enjoyed having the new freshman class come in when I was a sophomore and just being able to like kind of, be their friend, show them the ropes, but then also be in the process of college with them.
All right, last thing, and we'll give this one to Erin since she's the senior of the group. For someone who is maybe looking for a sport to get into, what's your 30-second pitch on fencing for them?
Okay, so it's a great combination of like physical activity and like strategy and like thinking. And then the community is small, so you really get to know the people that you see the same people at competitions. And it's a nice combination of like an individual sport because you're on the strip by yourself, but you have your teammates to support you because your one bout is like important and you're by yourself, but it's a whole team sport, so you need everybody. So it's like a nice combination of both. And yeah, it's my 30 seconds up. Yeah, I don't know. It's really fun.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight on our student athlete panel. And we wish you continued success and hope you guys are staying safe out there. But thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So that was our men's and women's fencing student athletes, Johns Hopkins. And next up, we will head to men's and women's swimming. And a couple of teams who had the seasons cut short. The NCAA championships canceled for the swimming athletes. And we will get 2 of our men's swimmers and 2 of our women's swimmers in here to join us in just a second, as looks like everyone has joined us here, and our men's and women's swimming student athletes join us here on the student athlete panel. And we will start with Elaine, but could everyone just go around and introduce yourself to everyone watching at home?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elaine. I'm a sophomore and I'm studying material science and engineering.
And I'm Kiki. I'm a senior and I'm studying Chem BE.
I'm Dylan. I'm a sophomore studying applied math and statistics. I'm from New Jersey.
And I'm Matthew. I am a senior and I'm studying biomedical engineering.
All right, so Matthew, we'll start with you. Being in your senior season, and we'll get to Kiki with kind of the same question as well. But you look back on your career in the pool at Hopkins, and what do you think you'll take away in your most memorable moments and the things you'll remember down the road from your time in Baltimore?
Yeah, I think that it was just such a really great experience. And with the swim team being so large, you really have like an extended family. And that happens like from the second that you get on the team when you arrive here in Baltimore. It's a really great experience to have that many people that you can like really turn to no matter what. And so that was like something that I really valued in my time here, and definitely something that I think I grew to appreciate more with each year. And I'd say that my favorite, like just pure memory was in my final like individual race of my like swimming career this year. I like went one of my fastest times ever in like my event, the 200 fly. And that was just something that like, what a way to be able to kind of go out on that note.
And Kiki, kind of same question to you.
I'm also just gonna go straight with how when you get here, you just automatically have a family of like 45 people, and just being able to not only share like the tough parts of practicing with them, but also the entire college experience is really rewarding. And they're always gonna have your back, so.
For Kiki, we'll kind of stay with you for this one. And I know, you had a great career at Hopkins, and it's always great to set personal records. But you were able to set a bunch of pool records this year at Hopkins. Does that have kind of even a different meaning to it when you do that?
I will say that it is really, I feel like honored to be able to do that, like in your own home pool with all of your teammates and your friends in the stands watching. It's definitely really special to be able to do that.
All right, we will go to Dylan for this one. This was a viewer question here from Maddie Haley. You maybe don't know anything different because you've been at Hopkins for 2 years, but what do you think the pros and cons are of you guys not competing in a conference, at least on the swimming side?
Yeah, so I would start off with the pros. I mean, I think the biggest thing is that we're a really competitive team for D3, and we face a lot of good competition, but the reason that not being in a conference is really beneficial for that is that we don't have to swim against a lot of set D3 like a Centennial Conference dual meets. So as a result, we can swim against a lot more Division I competition and have our regular season be really competitive. And competing against Division Is is a pretty big deal, and to be competitive against them throughout the season is really important for us. And yeah, I think it just gives us a little bit more freedom and flexibility in our schedule. I would say a con is that we don't really get to compete and an end of the season meet at with our conference with the entire team. So like a big group of us go to NCAAs and we have that meet, and it's really fun, really awesome. But some people who don't qualify for that, we don't have another big group event swim meet at the end of the season with that conference. That's one of the cons, but overall I think it's pretty good for the team.
Elaine, I'll direct this one at you. Another viewer question from Seth Burke, who says, how understanding are the teachers of your athletic schedule, especially when, you qualify for NCAAs and you're, even traveling more than you maybe initially, was set on the schedule at the beginning of the season?
I'd say for the most part, the professors are pretty understanding, especially like a lot of them have had swimmers. And I think we've made a pretty good reputation for ourselves of like staying consistent, and like mostly athletes like make up all the work and are like more than willing to like, take an exam at a competition if need be. And a lot of the professors, like one of my lab professors in particular, I told, like, he found out that I was going to NCAAs and like made an announcement to the group. So I'd say like they're really supportive of athletics in general.
Matthew, I'll direct this one at you. Another viewer question. Caleb asking, and this is good for you because you had to do this for 4 years. How do you balance academics, especially at a school like Hopkins, with not only the schedule, the meets, but just your guys' practice schedule?
It's pretty tough, given how intense our practice schedule is. I mean, we're in the water so much, like 8 times a week, but then on top of that, we have lifts and we have optional yoga practices, and we're like, I feel like I'm constantly like in the athletic center. And so it does make it pretty hard to find that balance. But I would say that the most important thing is really figuring out freshman year how to manage your time was like key. Because once you're able to kind of set that schedule and really find ways to maximize all of the like hour-long breaks that you have in between classes and practices and stuff, it allows you to really kind of make the most out of the time that you're given. And I think that that's really important. It also helps that even though our season is really long, basically after spring break when national is, you kind of have the rest of that spring semester to get your spring classes in order. And so it kind of lessens the load a little bit and takes some of that pressure off in your spring. So you're able to take a couple of your harder classes and maybe take more credits than you would in the fall.
Kiki, for you as someone who was with this program for all 4 years, and swimming being one of the sports where I think some people might kind of just in their minds mesh the men's and women's team together, what is that dynamic like, and the relationship between the men's and women's swimming teams at Hopkins, and how do you guys, work with each other to help each other as well?
Yeah, so I'm honestly a fan of having the teams together because instead of just getting to practice with just your smaller like gender like group, then you get to practice with a whole like extra group of people. And they sometimes have different like attitudes towards swimming, or you'll have someone like the guys are generally faster than the girls, so sometimes you could try to race them and like you can push yourselves more. Also it kind of goes along with swim meets. You have just like an extra like squad of people just cheering you on and supporting you, and it's always nice to have like different perspectives. So
Elaine, you're closer than a couple of these seniors, or at least less time removed from making your college decision to come to Hopkins. So we have another viewer question. Kevin asks, what does Hopkins swimming offer that other schools and programs don't?
Sure. So so when I was doing my recruiting process, I looked at a couple of Division I programs and some Division III programs, and Hopkins, like as a Division III program, spends a lot of gives a lot of focus to like maintain your academics and has a good balance of both. And I also felt like Hopkins in like the realm of D3 schools had just a really great program, and like I could tell that everyone on the team was really driven and wanted to improve as a swimmer, which like after high school it can be hard to stay focused, especially when like academics are so rigorous. But I felt like it had a really good balance of both, more than I could find at like a lot of other schools. Yeah.
Dylan, this one for you, another viewer question from Mackenzie, just says, what's your favorite part of not just being a swimmer, but being a swimmer at Johns Hopkins?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think my favorite part about being a swimmer, something that gets me going every single time I practice, every single time I wake up at 5:30 a.m. getting ready to go to practice, working really hard, like with an awesome group of people, like I have on Johns Hopkins swim team. Like the guys that I train with, the guys and girls that I train with, working hard with them and finishing a set and knowing that when I'm done with that set, I'll be working my hardest and the teammates around me are working their hardest. Like finishing that set, knowing that we did our best and having a good group of people around me is like the most fun thing. Like just knowing that everyone's giving it their all, knowing that everyone's working as hard as they can for their team and for themselves and for their team to get better is just like a really good feeling. And I think that's like my favorite part about swimming is just doing it with the people that love the team as much as you do and putting in the effort.
We'll give this one to Kiki and Matt, the two seniors here with us tonight. We'll start with you, Kiki. Another viewer question from David. What do seniors have to offer to incoming student athletes that can make their transition to college sports easier? Basically, if you had the Hopkins incoming freshman class right in front of you right now, what would you say to them to help them with that transition?
I would definitely tell them that you are going to be able to do it. It is a tough transition from high school to college for sure, but you could say that about any institution. And I will say for Hopkins that if you're going to transition to going here, again, like Matt said, like time management, just really make sure you're taking care of yourself. So trying not to like stay up and pull all-nighters because that's probably not going to help you succeed. And just, this is very cliched, but just to try your best because it's a totally different ball game in college, like especially like GPA wise, like you just kind of find that it doesn't matter quite as much as it did in high school. It's more about who you surround yourself with and what you want to do.
Yeah. And I would say that my two kind of like pieces of advice, one is to really take advantage of all the opportunities that Hopkins has to offer. I think that being at a university that is like the heart of research in America and the heart of just like has so many alumni networks and just really great opportunities, like knowing that those are out there for you and knowing that you have the ability to use them and take advantage of them is really key. And then my second piece of advice would be, and this is something that I feel like I really learned like over my 4 years, but that's just to enjoy like the whole process of it. And don't be so focused on like all of the little things. Don't be so focused on like the end goal because the 4 years flies by like so incredibly fast. I feel like I literally like got on campus, blinked, and now I'm graduating in a few weeks. And like, that's pretty crazy to think about, but really just like enjoying every moment of it and kind of like trying to take each moment in stride and really think about the whole thing is definitely important.
Elaine, I'll give this one to you. A viewer question from Sophia. What's the most enjoyable part of the season? And then is there like certain parts about just training with the team, especially in the preseason, that kind of brings you guys together?
Sure. So I'd say like in preseason, it's really fun because it's kind of like lower pressure. There aren't really competitions and most people are trying to get back in shape. So it's just fun to come to practice every day and like just see everyone again and hang out, sing songs, I don't know. And the best part of the season for me, I'd have to say is training trip. It's like where we get in some of our like most brutal workouts, but just like being in a new environment and like we go to Florida, just being in the sun just makes everything better. Yeah, good times.
And to you, Dylan, as well, the training trips you talked about, but what about that kind of, getting everyone together and you talked about, everyone's getting up at 5:30 a.m. How does that kind of bring you guys together?
Yeah, training trip is awesome. There's really nothing like it. Like we're down in Florida, we're having fun, but you're there to swim and you're there to work really hard. And knowing that everyone else is just really pushing it as hard as you are and there to get better. And then in between you get to go lay on a beach and play spike ball. Like it's super fun. Like it's really enjoyable. Like definitely one of my favorite parts of this season. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight for our student athlete panel. Our student athletes from women's and men's swimming at Johns Hopkins, and wish you guys all success in the future and hope you guys are staying safe.
Thanks, Connor.
You too.
All right, so those were our men's and women's swimming student athletes. And next up, we will welcome the champs to the Zoom tonight. The volleyball and field hockey team will be joining us, and both of them champions in their own right. Of course, the field hockey team winning the Centennial Championship this year, getting back to the Final Four for the second straight season. And on the volleyball side, they made history this year, 35-0 for the volleyball squad, and the first ever national championship in program history, as we are joined by our volleyball and field hockey student athletes. And starting with Abby, could you guys just go around real quick and introduce yourselves to everyone?
Yeah, I'm Abby Burke. I'm a sophomore. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a midfielder, and my major is public health and medicine science.
I can go next. I'm Natalie Aston. I'm a junior setter from Los Angeles, California, and I'm studying behavioral biology.
Guess I'll go next. My name is Tina. I'm a senior on the field hockey team. I played forward. I actually graduated in December with a major in cognitive science.
And my name's Morgan. I'm a junior, I guess a little of everything, but mostly Penn and DS. And I'm majoring in public health and biology.
Now, you guys all ended up with some hardware this season, but we'll start with field hockey, and we will start with Christina in your senior year. Now, I know you guys had the goal of winning it all, and you came up a little short, but to get back to the Final Four and win the conference championship this year, what was it like to see that group this season accomplish all that?
It was really great, especially I feel like the pressure was a little more on this season, while last year, we also made it to the Final Four, but I feel like it wasn't as expected for us to make it that far. So making it this year was definitely, again, like there's more pressure, and beating Tufts was a team who we actually lost to last season in the Final Four. So it was really good to, I guess, that making that same step to the Final Four was a little bit more meaningful this year. But yeah, it definitely was hard to lose, especially against a team we had played before, but sometimes that comes with playing a team so many times. But also the progress since my freshman year, not even making the conference tournament, was a big one. So still feels good.
Abby, Christina mentioned it a little bit, but go back to that moment when Izzy scores the goal in overtime against Tufts. What was that like? What was that just group like, and the sideline rushing out there, that whole moment?
Yeah, that was a crazy moment because, like Tina said, we'd lost to Tufts last year, and it was definitely a tough loss. We definitely got outplayed, and we'd all been thinking about that game all season, I'm sure. And so when we saw that they were on our side of the bracket and we were going to hopefully have an opportunity to play them at home, it was definitely a huge redemption moment for us. And then going into overtime was crazy, but the energy before overtime was like so insane. So great. And so going into overtime with that energy, and then in the first minute getting a corner, and then Coach Britt, she drew that one up, and I was actually right there on the post and like saw the ball go past my stick, which I was like, oh no, like there's no one behind me. But then Izzy like dove out of nowhere, and it was crazy. It was an insane goal, and I'm so glad she was there. So, and then the energy after the game, we were all so excited. It was just a great moment to have that kind of redemption moment like Tina and I talked about, and on our own field.
So over to Natalie now, the national champions in Division III women's volleyball this year, the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays, 35-0, a perfect season. You guys lost 8 sets all year. A lot of teams will lose 8 matches and call it a phenomenal season. Was there a point this year, obviously with you being right in the middle and running the offense, where you felt like this was a team that truly might be the best team in the country, and like you guys could go do what you did?
I don't think there was a point this past season. where it just clicked. We actually started thinking along the same lines last spring during our play day. We had 3 pretty solid matches, and I think after the end of that day, we all kind of just looked around and thought to ourselves, like, we have all the right pieces, and next season should be a good one.
Now, over to Morgan, specific, obviously a great season, but specifically the national championship match. You had to play a little bit of a different role with Nicole going out in the match before. But how did you kind of keep yourself calm in that moment? And you were going to be on the court anyway, but maybe not for as many points as you thought until the day before. So what was that experience like for you?
I mean, the whole season, it had kind of just been like, I will go in wherever needed. And at that moment, like, I was needed to play the libero, and that's how I was going to contribute to the game. And it really wasn't that different because I had spent the first couple of matches in the season playing libero after Hada got hurt the first time. So I was acclimated to that. And then I think overall, nerves were up because it was a championship match. But beyond that, like, I just really trusted my team, and I knew that all of them were going to step out there and perform and be there for each other. So that's really where like my faith lied. Yeah.
And for both of you, Natalie and Morgan, you think about how you guys are losing some great seniors, obviously, from this team, but you guys are going to be back and you're still going to be returning a good amount of players. First of all, do you think back at all on these two things? On one, that you're still going to be coming back with a chance to maybe do all this again, and second of all, you had to be the smallest team to ever win a national championship in anything. Do you ever look back on that at all?
I know for me, I get a lot of random messages from friends saying, hey, remember that time you won the national championship? Like, how did that happen? And I still, to this day, I have no idea how we managed to do it with 10 people. But I think in large part, it was Matt and Amy managing our load and taking into consideration our academic workload as well. But I'm definitely excited for next season, although we'll lose a large presence with Hannah and Lulu being gone. I think we have a great incoming class that will help us, and we're all very excited and staying in touch and doing the best we can to work towards our next goal, even during this quarantine.
I think sorry. Yeah, with such a small team, like, we were fortunate in that sense that everyone was able to form such tight connections with each other, and that foundation of trust really was there because each of us knew that, like, we had to be there and we had to step in because there was no one else to step in for us.
Back to you, Christine, on the field hockey side. You mentioned it briefly a couple minutes ago, but you were really one of these seniors who saw the whole progression of this program from your freshman year to you guys making the Final Four in back-to-back seasons as a junior and a senior. Was there a moment where it all changed? Was it just kind of a gradual increase for you guys? And what was that like, seeing the whole thing play out over 4 years?
Almost yes and no. I think it definitely was gradual, and as time went on, I think everyone just became more into the whole new team culture and putting the time and work in. But at the same time, I would say it was my sophomore year, so Jane had been there for spring season, and we won a few games that we didn't really know what to expect, but we were winning and everything was working. And I think from then on, like, once we made the conference tournament, and I think that's when we lost that year, but I mean, we knew at that point, like, this could be done, like, that we could get further and further. And then junior year too, we had such a good incoming class both years now, and everything just built up on each other. So once we again made the conference tournament and won that, we're like, all right, we're going. Like, this is going to be how our team culture is and how we're going to act from now on. And it just kept getting better. So
now, yeah, Abby, for you, it's so different because you come in and you've been here for 2 years and you've made 2 Final Fours. Did the seniors and the juniors and Coach Wells, kind of still, instill in the younger players that, hey, this isn't all easy, like we had to work from this point to get to these Final Fours?
Definitely. I came in at a really unique time right after they'd come off their season where they had finished in second in the tournament, conference tournament, and then barely missed out on an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. So coming in that year and feeling the kind of optimism that they all had for the season and the high hopes and high expectations they had for us was a really cool experience. And also we came in at a unique time, my class, because I came in with 12 players and they had just graduated a large group of girls who contributed to the team. So coming in during that time, I was able to join a lot of my freshman teammates on the field right away, and our upperclassmen teammates did such a good job of welcoming us in and helping us acclimate to the new environment. And then, like Tina said, we just kept winning, like things kept getting better, and our team culture just grew and grew. And so we kind of haven't stopped since then, I guess.
Back over to Natalie and Morgan. This is for both of you, but we'll start with Morgan, a viewer question from Lori Hardesty, who says, what was the biggest challenge of the season for each of you? People may not think in a 35-0 season that there's a lot of challenges, but there's still a lot of challenges to go a whole season without a loss. So what was the biggest one for you, Morgan?
Actually, as far as seasons went, this one was pretty smooth. I think, I guess not to contradict you there, but yeah, there definitely were challenges. I think some of them were, just being on such a small person roster, like always having the worry that maybe like someone would get injured and like we wouldn't have a key player, or sickness would kick in, or like, one person being out is a whole 10th of our team. So it's not quite like it is for large rosters. So in that sense, we were very kind of like careful about our health and keeping our bodies in check and like monitoring how we were feeling after each practice, after each lift, making sure to get adequate rest so we could sustain ourselves and prepare for a long postseason.
Yeah, I think in addition to having that constant fear in the back of our minds, we were on the road, I think the first 5 weekends of the season. So having that schedule was pretty tough, but I think we managed it well, and that just made playing in Goldfarb even sweeter.
Yeah, and you both talked about any injury even shrinks the team even more, and that happened for you, Natalie, in the conference tournament. Obviously, Morgan, you had to step in for a bigger role in the national championship match, but Natalie, you especially, knowing what Annalisa was able to do with you out. Did that give you even more confidence going into the NCAA tournament, knowing that everybody was ready to step up?
Oh, definitely. That was definitely a tough weekend for me having to watch, but I was so proud of the way Annalisa played and how composed she was, but also how bold she was with her decisions. And I think it definitely proved to our team that our training was working and that anyone could step up at any given moment. And yeah, it's a great moment.
Christina, with you being the only senior of the 4 here right now, when you look back on your 4 years at Hopkins, kind of a two-parter. One, how did you manage for 4 years the academic rigors of Hopkins and being an athlete? And then 2, looking back on all of that, what was your favorite moment of those 4 years?
As far as management is concerned, I know this is probably sound cliche, but just being able to manage my time. And I almost found that in season, sometimes it was easier because we were on such a strict schedule, and, I'd go home, I'd go eat, and then I'd do my work. And I know personally, I'm someone who definitely needs sleep. So that was always a big priority for me. And I think it helped me in the long run, just be able to stay energized for practice as well as perform in tests and whatnot. And obviously using resources too. And Jane has been really helpful, with letting us, or like listening to us when we need time during midterms. She's just very tuned into when we might need a little extra time to study, and when we need resources and whatnot. But yeah, and then my favorite memory, personally, I think, well, I kind of have 2. I mean, making the Final Four my junior year was definitely one of them. Just beating Masai in overtime. We were constantly behind, like trying to pull, and we ended up beating them, and they were number 1. So that was, we just we just kept going. Like we didn't know what to expect, and it was just such a good feeling. And then also selfishly, our senior night this year, beating Franklin and Marshall was definitely I'd say my favorite memory. Just that senior night's really special.
Back to Natalie and Morgan. Either or both of you can answer this, but this is a question straight from the wonderful Matt Lawrence. He wants to know, what role did the crab rave dance play in your perfect season?
Well, it was really fun. I think it's always fun to get student athlete support there, and everyone seemed really into it. I think one of our favorite, I don't even know what's it called, participants in the crab rave was our assistant coach Amy. Her boyfriend Anshul was a staunch supporter of us this year, and he would always come, and he got so into that dance, and it was hilarious because Amy would kind of just be like over this like this on the bench, and we would get a kick out of it.
Yeah, and I just hope it's a tradition that continues. I know basketball carried it on, but hopefully we can get other sports to do it as well.
And for both of you, Natalie and Morgan, that final point in Iowa, and everybody comes running out onto the court, despite it being not a very large group of people to celebrate with. But what was that like, and what do you remember from that exact moment, knowing that you guys had put together a perfect season and you get to bring a national championship back?
It was an interesting feeling for me, because one, I was in shock, but it also wasn't a huge surprise, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, but I just knew all the work that we had put in was going to pay off, and then having that moment finally and just waiting for Hada to like walk onto the court like crying her eyes out was just an awesome feeling.
For me, it was just, like Natalie, it was a huge culmination of basically everything we've been working towards, like not just this season, but all the work that people have put in past seasons, like our freshman year, our sophomore, the alumni before us, like everything has led up to, that point and every point past that. So it's just another, point, a step in our journey, and hopefully we'll have more of those points, but yeah.
Is it fun to walk by through Goldfarb and just see the trophy and the net and the hat sitting in the glass case?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I know Matt is very proud of his presentation, the way he arranged everything as well.
Yeah, he took very good care of that trophy.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on our student athlete panel. Our student athletes from field hockey and volleyball, the 2019 national champions, and wish you guys all continued success, and hoping you're staying safe during this time.
Thank you.
You too, thanks.
So those were our field hockey and women's volleyball student athletes. Of course, field hockey, the conference champions, volleyball undefeated 35-0, and the national champions. Next up, student athletes from baseball and football will be joining us here in a second. Technically, we've got 3 football players here on the call, as Mike Everly will join us representing both sports. But we will start here with David, and if you could just get it started and everyone go around and introduce yourselves.
What's going on? My name is David Tamero. I'm a senior. Just finished up my last season at Hopkins. Now finished up my last couple weeks of classes. I'm from Chantilly, Virginia. I played quarterback. Yeah.
Next up.
I'm sorry about that. I'm Ross Anderson from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a chemical and biomolecular engineering major, and I'm a sophomore.
I am Mike Eberly. I'm from Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. I'm a senior. I was an infielder on the baseball team for 4 years, and I was also a kicker on the football team for the last 2.
And I'm Matt Ritchie. I am a junior from Ashburn, Virginia. I play second base on the baseball team.
All right, so we'll start with David because you've got Homewood Field right there behind you. You finish out your career at Hopkins as quarterback for the football team, as you said, and just thinking about Homewood Field, what do you take away from your 4 years and kind of your favorite moment on that field in your 4 years putting on that Hopkins helmet?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I just want to say your mustache looks awesome. I'm very jealous. But no, I think when I came into Hopkins, I had some expectations. I had some thoughts about how my 4 years were going to go, but I'll say my 4 years definitely exceeded that. It was the best 4 years of my life. I've made so many great friends, so many great memories, and I think I wouldn't have it any other way. I have two really cool memories. I think the first one is beating RPI in the Elite Eight when I was a junior to put us into the Final Four. Hopkins football had never been that far, and that was just a really cool moment. Really great season. And the second one was throwing a touchdown actually this year to my roommate, Pat Hensley. We didn't get very many reps together on the field, but it was on senior day. It was our last drive in together, and threw him a touchdown. It was pretty sick. So that's that.
Mike, I want to get to you next because you're here representing both teams, baseball and football. So take us through that story of before your junior year. You end up on the football team too, and you end up as the number one kicker.
Yeah, it was kind of something that I never expected from my college experience, and in hindsight, I would have had a totally different experience without it. Basically, I had taken a post-grad year of high school. I decided I'd been playing soccer. I decided I want to try kicking for the football team. I had a ton of fun. I had a decently strong leg, so I had emailed Coach Margraf coming in. Didn't hear back from him at the time. There was already some really good kickers on the team. I played baseball my freshman, sophomore year, and then I was talking to some of the guys in the spring, and they were basically like, yeah, I guess we're pretty sure we have a kid coming in, but they had just graduated Jamie Sullivan, who was a really strong kicker. So I basically emailed Coach Margraf again, and he was like, yeah, you can come and be on the team. Him and Coach Bauer were great friends, so they worked it out between each other so that practice schedules in the fall, everything would work out okay. And Coach Margraf basically told me later on that he didn't expect to ever use me, just thought it would be good to have a body as a backup kicker. But I came in and made a couple field goals in preseason. So I was given that role for the year. And so for the next 2 years, I took all the reps as far as extra points and field goals. That was a lot of fun, totally different experience than any other position I've played in any other sport. Completely mental. And there were a lot of ups and downs, but it was an incredible experience. And I had definitely a tough junior year statistically, but it was fun to come out this past year and able to be a little bit more consistent. So overall, it was an incredible ride to get to experience both.
Now we'll go to Matt Ritchie. You're already getting a lot of questions in the comments section right now, but we'll get one duplicate question, so we'll ask that. It's from Harrison and also from Lauren. Won't reveal last names, but I think you know who they are. They both want to know, with you guys going to the College World Series last year, your favorite and least favorite part of the state of Iowa.
Oh, wow. I can give you least favorite. Everything in Cedar Rapids smelled like oatmeal. Just the entire city smelled like oatmeal. But I guess my favorite part of Iowa was that the College World Series was there. And so we got to go there, and that was pretty fun. But not many high points for me in the state of Iowa.
So Ross, will go to you. The only underclassman on the call at the moment, sophomore Ross Anderson. But you played a big part on defense this year for the Blue Jays football team. What was it like kind of getting into that role as a younger guy? And, what did you learn from the senior class this year in, a year where you guys didn't get back to the Final Four, but it was still a successful 8-win season?
It was definitely, kind of like Dave was saying, I had expectations for myself coming in and for the experiences that I would have had. And my freshman year, I was on special teams and played a little bit on defense. And then sophomore year, I was able to step into the starting role. And that's truly a blessing to be able to put all the hard work towards that. And I've made some really, really good friends in the senior class that I played with this year. Definitely some lifelong friends. And they taught me a lot about, just sometimes you need to just put your head down and work. And that's what I try to do a lot. As an underclassman, sometimes you need to let some of the older guys lead by their words, and you just lead with your actions. And that's what I tried to do a lot of the time.
Now I want to go to Matt and Mike for this question because you guys were part of the spring athletes who basically had 80% of your season essentially cut, and an interesting scenario for you guys because you made it down to Florida for the spring break trip, played one game, and then came back. Kind of take us through those 3 or 4 days during that week back in March, and start with Matt.
So I think it started at the Messiah game because that was a couple days before we were scheduled to leave for Florida, and there were jokes around the team that oh guys, we better have a good game today because this is our there's a lot of our guys senior day, so we gotta, like, joking like, oh, our season's gonna get canceled. And then we get down to Florida and we realize that a lot of other seasons around us are getting canceled, and so we're playing through our game. We're playing Plymouth State, and we're just going through it as if it's a normal game. We handled our business, we beat them, and then Coach Babb let us know at the end of our season that or at the end of the game that the school was calling us back and we were flying back the next day. So it was definitely a roller coaster of emotions, to say the least.
Mike, for you, kind of as a senior, being even more than just your season ending, but potentially, feeling like your career was ending at that point. What was that week like?
Yeah, it was something for me. I wasn't until it was kind of, we were saying like Swarthmore canceling their season and other teams in the conference. It wasn't something that I would have actually been too worried about. But obviously we got down to Florida and we were seeing teams cancel their seasons, like Richie was saying. And probably for me, it really only sunk in when I don't even know what teams were playing before us, but the team that won had a great game. They're all fired up, and then like 5-10 minutes later, they're off the side of the field down the right field line, all crying, hugging each other. And that's when we went on the field to warm up, and that definitely shook me up a lot because it kind of made it very real. And so we went out and played a great game. It was a great last game. You don't often get to win your last baseball game if you play at Hopkins. So that was something that it was still a good way to go out. Definitely a bummer because we had the way our pitching had stepped up. You could make a lot of good arguments that we could have even been better than last year. Obviously, we had a long way to go to prove that, but there was a lot there. So a bummer that we didn't get to complete the season and see where it went. But that's still, those games are only like 25% of the year. Everything we do in the fall and winter and all the time we spend together is still really valuable and a lot of fun. So we didn't lose the whole year by any means.
David, back up to you. You did get to finish out your senior season, but looking back from day one, freshman year until now, you guys as a team went through a lot in your 4 years. Also had the highs of getting to the Final Four last year. What do you kind of take away, what you've learned, and how you've changed as a person, as a player, as a student in those 4 years?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been a crazy ride, my 4 years at Hopkins. And something a lot of people don't know is it was a really hard adjustment for me in the months of August, September, my freshman year. I remember calling my dad and being like, yo, Dad, like, this is really hard, man. Like, you might have to come pick me up. And he was like, no, like, you're staying, stick it out. Like, by all means, like, you're staying. And I was like, you know what? All right, you're right. Let's give it a shot. And it turned out to be, like I said, the best 4 years of my life. But I think I really learned what it means to work and to grind since I've been at Hopkins. You really got to earn everything that comes your way here. And I think that's something that happened. I came in, I was a 5th string quarterback my freshman year and kind of worked my way up to be the starter eventually. And in terms of school, it's one of the hardest places in the country to go to school. And so, I think I just really learned how to work, really learned how to put my head down, kind of like Ross was saying, and grind. And, it's been a crazy 4 years, and I'll remember them for the rest of my life.
Mike, I think this question kind of especially pertains to you being, you played on 2 teams for your last 2 seasons, and having done, student athlete at Hopkins for 4 years, with the grind of the baseball schedule and the practice schedule of football and all of that. How did you balance schoolwork at Hopkins plus playing 2 sports plus wanting to be a 21, 22-year-old kid, and have a college life as well?
Yeah, it actually, it definitely made things hard. I was exhausted every day, but it was also much more fulfilling. So in a lot of ways, it was much better as I became busier, added things in that I enjoyed doing every day. The sports, the academics are hard. There's no way there's no way to cut the cake other than that. And so there's going to be times where you're really struggling. And the sports serve is a wonderful way to break that up. If you have to go to practice for a little bit, run around, blow off some steam, and then kind of go back and try it again. And it definitely wasn't easy. There were a lot of conflicts, and I definitely just like to thank the baseball coaches for being open-minded and letting me go play football in the first place. I think a lot of coaches would have said, no, you can't go do that. I expected to start coming into my junior year in baseball, so they definitely didn't have to let me get that opportunity. It's definitely really appreciative that they let me even give it a shot.
Ross, to you, I think something a lot of people are interested about is, what's the recruiting process like for a Division III football athlete? Because, Division I, it's highly publicized now, and there's thousands of people who cover Division I football recruiting. But for you at the Division III level for football, how's that process different, and what's it like, picking a Division III school?
Yeah, when I was going through my process, I was trying to look at the Ivy League schools and then other Division III schools that were pretty high academic. And the thing that I found was I had to put in a lot more work than I had originally thought into the process. I had to do all the emailing. I had to put my film together. I had to reach out to this coach and that coach and go to this summer camp and that summer camp and combines and all that type of stuff to get my name out there. People don't just come calling for you, especially at a Division III level when I was not a earth-shattering athlete at all. But so there's a lot more work involved than I thought, I would say, but it's definitely super rewarding. Division III, I'd say, is underrated in how great the academics are and how seriously talented some of the football players are. And I'm sure I know it's the same in other sports, in other Division III sports too.
Matt, this is a question from your teammate, James Ingram. I'm assuming he means among the hitters on the Hopkins team this year, but you can include others as well. Favorite and least favorite walk-up song?
All right. So I do have a list. Favorites, Jack Walters is he has Mr. Boombastic as by Shaggy is one. That's a favorite. Least favorite, I didn't like Everly's, but I was gonna wait to tell him in person, but I guess we'll do it over Zoom. I liked mine. Mine was pretty great. Russian Cream by Key Glock. It's a pretty great song. Jacob K. Stevens has the BoJack Horseman theme song, and he's a pitcher, so it goes on for a lot longer. So it feels like you're watching the TV show as he's pitching. That's pretty much it. I didn't hate many walk-ups, but Mike's I did not like yours.
Mike, your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It might just not be Richie's style. I had Too Little Too Late by JoJo. I think it kind of undeniably slaps. I think a lot of people felt the same way. You can't please everyone. One more I would throw in there is we had freshman Matt Chang had a remix of Skrillex's Bangarang, where instead it said Changarang and then went into the drop. And I think that kind of spurred him to whack a double off the wall on his first ever college at bat. So that was a cool moment too.
So this will be for all four of you, and especially for Mike and Matt, who were right in the middle of your seasons. But we're in this quarantine now, and you're staying at home. So you guys are high-level Division III college athletes. How do you keep yourself occupied when you're sitting at home? We'll start with David.
I have actually been playing about 2 hours of cornhole every day against either myself or my family or maybe a couple neighbors, but we stand 6 feet apart. But I've become an insane cornhole player. So if anyone on the broadcast or they knows me in real life want to play Zoom cornhole, I'll take any challengers.
Could we see you on the professional cornhole circuit on ESPN anytime soon?
Last night, I was looking up local tournaments for when this quarantine ends. So honestly, if you gave me like another month in quarantine, I'm sure I would be a top 50 USA cornhole player.
Roth, what about you? What's quarantine life been like?
Well, since I have to return to a season, hopefully in the fall, I've been definitely working out and keeping myself in shape. But aside from that, and aside from school, I've been playing a lot of NBA 2K on my Xbox. I'd say that I'm talented. We had a 2K tournament between within our football team, and myself and Harrison Wellman won that uncontested. So I'd say that if anybody wants to try me, they can go ahead.
You want to drop your gamer tag then?
Yeah, double S man 04, capital D, capital S, capital M.
Well, we've already had a couple athletic challenges being thrown out here, but Matt, what's quarantine life been like for you?
Honestly, a whole lot of rest. I take a lot of naps. I do some writing. I also play a decent amount of video games. Ross, if you ever want to lose in 2K, please let me know
Let's go.
If possible, because, oh gosh, I would love that. But a lot of video games, a lot of reading, a lot of writing. Still trying to keep up with my classes, and of course, as a junior, I still got to come back next year, so I got to stay in shape somehow. So our strength and conditioning department sent out a pretty nice workout for us to do. So I've been trying to keep up with that to keep myself in shape for next season.
Mike, we'll finish with you.
Yeah, so I've actually been carrying around what I call the power pouch for the past couple years, which is basically an extra 10 pounds of fat around my waist, which turns fly balls into doubles and doubles into home runs. So I've been working on cutting that off now, which I think my mom is pretty thrilled to see. So I actually got a pair of roller blades and I kind of whip around on those. So that's pretty fun. Not a good runner, so that's much better. Then obviously finishing up school. I still got to finish physics 2 lab, so that's kind of a grind for me. I don't really know any of the physics anymore, so it takes a long time. And then I've been playing some Call of Duty, some NHL. I played Call of Duty with Richie once. He wasn't that good, so I haven't played with him again since. But
I don't even believe that. That's
yeah, that's basically it. Definitely got to figure out some more to do here soon. They closed all the beaches up here, so things are quiet right now, but it is what it is.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight here on the Student Athlete panel. Wish you all well in the future and hope you guys are staying safe.
Thanks, Connor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so those were our baseball and football student athletes. And next up, as we come down the home stretch here, men's and women's tennis student athletes will join us here as we've hit 8 o'clock Eastern time. Remember, if you have any questions for our student athletes, just post them right there in the YouTube comments section. And 4 athletes here joining us, 2 from the men's tennis team and 2 from the women's tennis team here on the Zoom call. Some athletes who had their seasons cut short this year, but let's, starting with Austin, kind of go around and just introduce yourselves to everyone watching. Starting with Austin. All right, we can start with Sophia if you can hear me. Go around and introduce yourselves to everyone.
Okay. Hi, my name's Sophia. I'm a senior on the Hopkins women's tennis team. I'm originally from Alpharetta, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. Yeah, pretty much that's it.
I'll go next. I'm Vishnu. I'm a junior on the men's tennis team. I'm majoring in computer science and computer engineering.
I'm Emily. I'm a freshman on the women's tennis team. I'm from Fort Myers, Florida, and I'm majoring in cognitive science and environmental science.
I'm Austin. I'm a senior. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I'm majoring in public health.
All right, so we'll start with Austin, and this question will go to Sophia as well. But you guys were a part of those spring athletes who had the seasons cut short, and then for some of the seniors as well, careers cut short, obviously very, very early in your guys' spring seasons. So, we'll start with you, Austin. Kind of take me through the days leading up to finding out the season was canceled and what that was like, and then what support you got from the people around you when you got that news.
It was honestly pretty crazy. Like, I remember the week before we were about to leave for spring break, like so many teams were just dropping out of the spring break trips. I remember like the NESCAC dropped out, just like other schools here and there were dropping out, and it was like you were kind of just like watching the world burn around you. And then we were just kind of taking it day by day, and then literally up until the day that we were leaving for spring break, it was just like, yeah, it looks like we're still going, looks like spring break's still go. And then the day that we leave for spring break, everyone's like on the bus, And then we're like halfway to the airport, and then our coach gets up and he's like, yeah, they just canceled our trip. So like we literally just turned around, went straight back to campus, met with one of our sports administrators, and I don't know, I guess that's when like things really started going downhill. Like around that time was when Hopkins tried to get everyone off campus. I think that's around the time that when remote classes started being a thing. So yeah, I mean, it was just pretty crazy. It was just like a roller coaster, I guess. As far as support system go, I don't know. I feel like it was just knowing that everyone else on the team and honestly everyone else around the school was just kind of like going through the same thing. And you know, at the end of the day, I feel like we all understood what it was about. So yeah, at the very least, like we could all respect why, you know, our season got cut short.
Yeah, we only played one match this season actually, which was really sad because we put in a lot of work in the off season to prepare, and we felt like we were in a really good position as a team. And it was one really good match against Navy. And I guess it kind of really became real for us, I think, at least for me, when the Nez got canceled their season. I was a little bit in denial, thinking maybe we could still go on, maybe just for at least spring break. And then when the guys' trip got canceled, that's like when it really became real for us. But I would say the team themselves was really great. We all got together, both the guys and the girls teams, to hang out the night before everybody pretty much left campus. And that was really fun, just seeing that like we all really, you know, we were really sad about this and like really cared about each other. And they were really awesome letting the seniors kind of speak and share their piece. And just thank everybody for an amazing 4 years that we've had. So the team itself was actually one of like the best support systems, just letting us know how much they cared and how much they were going to miss us all.
Vishnu, for someone like you who, you know, still gets another year to come back, but who was looking forward to hopefully what would be a very successful junior year, you know, how has it been for you on one hand, kind of looking back and thinking what could have been, but also, you know, looking forward and thinking about how hungry you'll be to get back out there next spring?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, first off, just big thanks to Austin and Joe for just being awesome captains. I think they really set the tone for how great this year was going to be. We took out 3 really good teams just right off the bat to start the season. We were putting in a lot of work, like on and off the court. So it was definitely a bummer to kind of see the season just kind of go down the drain there. But, you know, looking forward to next season for sure. I think, again, like I mentioned, the captains did a really good job of setting like or creating a culture for us to really build upon next year. And I think that's something that I'm going to look to enforce in the coming few months. I know it's like a tough time for everyone on the team. Everyone's at home. But I think this could be a time of growth for a lot of people. And hopefully it's going to be a time of growth for us too.
And Emily, finally for you, you know, you're on almost the opposite end of this thing. You're geared up for your first season on the court as a Blue Jay, and it all gets cut short after one match. You know, what kind of goes through your head there, where, you know, you've that first season where you can kind of get into the flow of things, you've kind of lost that here.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely really disappointing, but I think we had a lot going for us this season, and we were really lucky that Sophia was our only senior, and she's going to be able to come back next year. So we're going to bring back all of our starters and all of our team. And we had a really strong fall season. We all got a lot of matches under our belt in our first tournament. And I think that even though it was sad that our season got cut short, we are all just that much more excited to come back for next season and do it again.
And for kind of switching gears a lot here, but we're getting questions from the viewers here, and this one is directed to Emily and Sophia, and we'll let Sophia answer first. If there was a WWE wrestling tournament within the team, who is the favorite to win? I don't write the questions, I just read them.
My first thought was Danya, because I feel like she just has that kind of aggressive side that you can definitely see while she's playing tennis. She's a pretty powerful player, and I feel like she could really translate that well into any sort of WWE situation. Yeah, but I feel like our team likes each other too much to take that on.
Well, I guess, yeah, my first thought was Danya as well, just because she
Fan
knows
favorite.
when to get aggressive on court. But I think in terms of build, Selena and I are definitely the tallest and largest people on the team. But I don't know.
We'll go to Austin for this next one. I know it's been tough to lose the season and be in this quarantine, but first of all, just kind of simply is because you guys are tennis athletes, it's almost something you can still do to some degree while maintaining 6 or more feet of distance. And also, going forward for you, Austin, how do you see tennis continuing in your life after your time as a student athlete is up?
Well, honestly, I was planning on playing some tournaments just because there's some like tournaments here and there where like if you make it to the semis, you can rake in like, I don't know, like 150 or something. So that's a decent amount of money. That's something that's definitely worth training for. So that was probably my most immediate plans. And then, so I'll be applying to med school this upcoming May, I guess. So my hope was that I was going to be able to be like an assistant coach or like a volunteer assistant coach wherever I end up going to med school.
And
yeah, that'd be cool.
What got you interested in wanting to do coaching? Just love of the game or something else as well?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just trying to be a part of it again, trying to be a part of that like team atmosphere, capture some of that same competitiveness. Yeah, I mean, that's really it.
All of you guys can answer this because for tennis, everyone thinks it's a spring sport, but you guys compete, or some of the team competes in the fall as well. So we'll start with Vishnu here and go down the line. What's it like to have such that almost round the clock schedule and balance it with Hopkins academics and then being a college student as well?
Yeah, no. I think having sports both in the fall and the spring is actually something that I'm sure like a lot of tennis players are used to coming to college, seeing that like just to get recruited and stuff like that, you have to play USTA tournaments, which are year round. So it's definitely not as crazy as an adjustment as maybe you'd think, but I think it's also something that keeps you really structured in terms of like how your day is going to go. I think sometimes having too much time on your hands is dangerous, at least in my case. So just having the ability to go to practice, go to workouts, knowing that you have to get enough sleep and do your homework is really important, just day in, day out. And I think Austin and I had a pretty successful fall, which is a lot of fun. I think it's a great way to just keep like really close with all your teammates kind of year round, which is really sick.
Yeah, I would agree that yeah, tennis is pretty year round. I'm from Georgia, so people are playing year round anyways. There's no real off season, especially for juniors. So I'd say it's almost a breath of fresh air to come in. Like that fall season is individual and that spring season is as a team. But even competing as an individual, wearing a team uniform, having your teammates support you, cheering them on is honestly so much better than just playing by yourself. It's like one of the best things about college tennis. So I'd say it's definitely not as much of an adjustment, but it's definitely an adjustment for the better because you are, you're competing for something that's a lot bigger than just yourself and just your win. So.
I mean, I also think the fall is like really nice just because like the weather's so nice. Like you go out from like 4 to 6 p.m. right after your classes and it's like 80 degrees outside and like you're with your teammates. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, I always like that aspect. I also like the aspect that like in the fall, I feel like you're trying to sort of find your identity as a team and you kind of like feel out the freshmen. I don't know. I guess you get like a gauge of like where your team's headed and your direction and like your strengths and weaknesses and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I feel like it's just fun to see that unravel.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everyone else said. And I think kind of similar to what Vishnu said, I mean, being a freshman, I was coming straight off of like playing junior USTA tournaments. So having that year, all around the year thing wasn't new for me. I think the only difficult thing that I had to adjust to was we have really late night practices at the beginning of our spring season. So while other teams are finishing their practices at around 8 p.m., we're driving out to the courts at 8 p.m. And so we sometimes would get back to practice as late as like 11:45 or midnight. And I think that's the biggest thing, was like controlling your sleep schedule. And so just staying disciplined and staying on top of that was what you had to get used to.
We'll finish with this one. I'll go to Sophia, but anyone can chime in afterwards as well. Tennis is somewhat of an individualized sport, whether you're playing, singles or doubles, especially singles, you're out there competing against one other person. But how big and how important is it for people to know, how much your teammates who aren't even involved in a certain match, can make a difference just from the sidelines, especially in collegiate tennis?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge difference. We're actually a little bit of a bigger team than most tennis teams. A lot of other programs have, anywhere from like 6 to 10 girls, and we had 16 to 17 this year. So, but every single person makes a difference. Even just the day ins and day outs of practice, if everybody's grinding and working hard on and off the court, that still pushes you. And that is something that we really instilled this year, is that like every single person, whether or not they think they're going to be playing every match, is still really important, that they're kind of buying into this team culture and the work ethic. And then just having people in the middle of the match on the sidelines, because you've been through that hard work in the off season. You've kind of been there through like the tough times. And then when you are, and then that just makes you support your teammates, and you want them to win so badly because you have seen how hard they've worked and you've worked alongside of them. So I would just say, just having teammates there, whether it's doubles or singles, makes all the difference in the world. And knowing that, you're going to put your all out for them, but even if it doesn't go your way, they are still going to be so proud of you because you're competing for them.
Is that kind of the same thing everyone else feels when they're out there?
I mean, just adding on to that, I know like we got a couple guys on our team, like Rob, if you're listening to this, like we love you. Like we have some guys out there who will do anything to support us when we're playing like really tough matches. I know we had just like a ton of away matches this season where sometimes, you can't get your parents out there or like kids from, Hopkins out there watching you, but having that big team there behind you, just cheering super loudly, getting rowdy. It's like one of the funnest environments in college, period. And, there's always like this talk amongst our team. We have like 17 or 18 guys, and it's just like, is that too many? And sometimes like people may think it is, but just having all those people there supporting you, just like some of your best friends, it's just, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Austin, you're on mute.
For me, I feel like one thing that I've really enjoyed about having such a big team is that it just gives your team like so much personality. And we have like so many just like, I don't know, we have just like a whole spectrum of people on a team. Like we have 19, 20 different people, and we have 19, 20 different personalities. And, I feel like that's something that adds a lot of color to your team. And it's something that it's like, okay, we can appreciate which each individual brings to the table. So, in that way, everyone's sort of able to like fill their own niche and, contribute in their own way. And I mean, that's something that makes, coming to practice every day a lot of fun. And it's something that makes, like Emily was saying, how we have like 8:30 to 11 practices, that's something that makes those late night practices a lot more tolerable. So I don't know, for me, like that's a lot of that is what contributed to this like whole team environment and culture.
Yeah, I think same thing. I came in with 5 other girls in my class, which I wasn't originally expecting, because 6 people in one class is enough to fill an entire team. And so at first I was a little apprehensive, like if there was going to be a competitive culture or something like that. But I mean, I think that we're all really different personality wise, but that's made them some of my best friends. I don't know who's watching. I'm pretty sure Selena is, but I just want to shout her out because she has some of the best energy of anyone I've ever met. And I think that being a part of such a big team gives you an opportunity to meet so many like amazing people. And similar to what Austin said, we all play like different roles on the team, whether it's on the court or off the court.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here on our student athlete panel. Wish you guys all success in the future and hope you're all staying safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connor.
Thanks, Connor.
All right, so that was our men's and women's tennis student athletes. And to finish it off here tonight, our final group of student athletes come from the wrestling and water polo squads that will join us here in a second. Of course, the wrestling team had the NCAA championships future and hope you're on their end. And the water polo team, a couple of athletes from that squad will join us here as well in just a second here as we have our student athletes from wrestling and water polo here joining us here on the student athlete panel. And starting with Dominic, could you guys just go around and introduce yourselves real fast?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Dominic. I'm on the wrestling team. I'm a junior from Baltimore, Maryland, studying cognitive science.
I'm Nathan Wertheimer. I'm a senior on the wrestling team. I'm from San Francisco, California, and I'm studying earth science and philosophy.
I'm I'm Finn. I'm on the water polo team. I'm a senior, and I'm studying computer science and chemical engineering.
I'm Olin. I'm a junior on the water polo team, and I'm studying environmental health and engineering.
So I want to start here with the water polo guys, to Finn and Olin. Obviously, Finn a senior, Olin a junior, but both of you coming from California, and Nathan as well, also a California kid. But you know, we know the game is big out in California, but what draws you from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast to come to Baltimore for college? And we'll start with Finn.
For me personally, I always I loved water polo and I wanted to play in college, but it wasn't location dependent. And so when I started looking at East Coast schools, I saw a bunch of programs that were really interesting. And then the ultimate decision to come to Baltimore specifically really had to do with the team. And I came out and I had an incredible recruiting visit. I saw that the team was closer than any other team I had seen. So yeah, for me, it was definitely more about the team.
Yeah, I think that's pretty consistent with everyone that's on it. I think that luckily Hopkins has a good pedigree as far as water polo goes. We're pretty consistently top 5 at least in the D3 in the nation. So that gets it going. And then academics, of course. I mean, you can never say no to a school like Hopkins. So it's always in conversation like that. And then, you know, if you're a little iffy after that, then the visit, it's so much fun. All the water polo guys are living together. You can get to see what they're doing on a daily basis, go to their classes and see how interested they are in school as well. So I think it's a pretty good program we have.
Nathan, for you, were the reasons similar to come from the Bay Area over to Hopkins?
Yeah, similarly, I was kind of looking to go a little bit away from home, experience a new part of the United States. Something else, I think, while there's a lot of high school wrestling in California, it's really strong. There is not much college wrestling on the West Coast in the western part of the U.S. So that sort of drew my attention to the East Coast as well.
And so the complete difference as we go to Dominic, our 3 California guys, and you basically stayed home for college from Cockeysville, went to Loyola. You were wrestled for the Dons in high school. And so on the flip side of that, you know, what went into you staying home and wrestling for the Blue Jays?
Well, similar to the other guys, I also wanted to initially to get out of the state of Maryland. Hopkins was actually the only in-state school I applied to. And I didn't know whether I wanted to wrestle or not. I didn't know Hopkins had a wrestling team until after I applied there around January. And my academic advisor definitely was a big push for me to apply to Hopkins. His daughter went there and he really thought it would be a really good fit for me. And I have no regrets for coming here.
Yeah, so we'll stay with you, Dominic. You You finished this year. Intermat had you ranked 9th in the country at 165, 34-2 on the season, and you get the All-American honors, but that is, despite not the normal way the All-American honors are given out, with the NCAA championships being canceled this year because of coronavirus. So, is there a little bit, left, a bad taste in your mouth, knowing you had a real shot to maybe be a national champion this year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely appreciate the honors by the NWCA, but it doesn't feel the same as standing on top of that podium. And so I'm definitely looking forward to next year, especially for the seniors. There were around like 64 seniors who went out to Cedar Rapids to go wrestle the NCAAs, and their season got cut, and they're no longer able to wrestle next year. Luckily, I'm a junior, so I have another year left to go ahead and stand on top of that podium. So I still have that taste, whereas though I don't feel like I'm an All-American yet until I stand on top of that podium.
Now, Nathan, for you, you were one of the seniors on the wrestling team, and you did get to finish your career with probably your best season of your 4 at Hopkins, and you set the pin record with 17, and you tie the record on senior night. What was that moment kind of like in your final match? It's not like there's a lot of duels inside of Goldfarb, but in the final one, you get to do it.
Yeah, no, that was really fun. I think that was Dominic's record from his freshman year that I passed. But that was sort of a fun storyline of the season for sure. I think I wasn't really thinking about it until coach put up the stats, and I was like, oh, you're at 12, 13, a couple away with a lot of the season left. So that was fun, a fun thing. But yeah, it was a really successful season for me. I didn't end up qualifying, but really proud of that. And it's cool. It's cool to leave that, to have that record.
And back over the water polo guys, we'll start with Finn, who played in this pool for 4 years. It's kind of a little bit more of an inside water polo thing, but it's known that the pool at Hopkins is a little more shallow than most. How does that affect you guys? And what do you hear from other teams who come into play you guys?
The other teams do not like it. Realistically, we approach each game in our pool pretty differently. It is a different game with like the same roots of water polo. But in reality, what happens is that you're going to get a lot less tired during the game. It's a shorter pool. And so it does require a different mental stability about it. But at the same time, we train in it, and a lot of these other teams have no idea what's going on. So we do have the advantage there. But realistically, we only have 6 games a year out of around 25 in that pool. So we don't specifically prepare for it or anything. We focus on water polo and other pools as the thing, and then when we do end up having games in our pool, we take some time just to sort of understand what it's like to play in a shallow pool and understand how the game changes with that.
Yeah, to add on that, I think, it's always nice beating D1 teams in your own pool. So everyone in our conference is D1, so we play a conference match in our home pool with everyone. So we have 6 or 7 times a season, we have the opportunity to get our fans out, get some people to support, and then, show them a little Hopkins magic. That being said, as our pool maybe isn't ideal, if we can get wins in that pool and play good offense and play solid defense, then we can do it anywhere. So by the time we're, conditioned and ready to go out to California to play some other D3 teams, we're ready.
Well, and kind of expanding on something you just said about, playing the D1 schools, but being a D3 school, it's something that happens in water polo and not as much in other sports, where you're playing teams from different divisions a lot more often. What's that like, and does it bring, a little more satisfaction to beat a D1 team?
Yeah, I think there's nothing really quite like it. I guess we're pretty unique in that we get that opportunity, and we're grateful for that as well, because we want to be playing the best. There's not too many D3 water polo teams on the East Coast. So when we come out here, we want to be playing the best, and that, so happens to be a bunch of D1 teams. They often have some resources that were not available as far as recruiting or funding or stuff like that. But that, that's nothing to us. But we know that we can come together and play against these teams, and they might be bigger or stronger, but we're smarter and faster, and we're ready to give it our all.
Finn, you having finished up your 4 years with the Blue Jays, you look back on it, you finish 6th in school history in career points. You're an All-American last year. Is there one moment you think back to that was your favorite in your 4 years?
I gotta say this year, when we beat MIT in D3 Easterns, was definitely a high point. We have, as many people, like, there's a rivalry that goes on, especially between us and their water polo team, especially since we are like the 2 powerhouses of D3 on the East Coast. And so with recruits, we also like compete in that area. But beating them was just ultimately like one of the most satisfying moments of my career there, because it wasn't just one person winning it. It was the entire team coming collectively together and deciding that we were going to win this team, and that we were going to show them that we were not only more composed than them, but we were better than them at water polo, and that we wouldn't stoop down to their level when they played dirty.
So to you, Nathan, back over to the wrestling side, through your 4 years, it's a very individualized sport when you're out there on the mat one-on-one, but a lot, the dual meets, you rely on your teammates to get you guys points, and it's still a team camaraderie. So, what's that balance like between it being somewhat of an individual sport, but especially at the collegiate level, it being a lot about the team as well?
For sure. It always feels like it's about the team, and that just kind of carries over from practice to duels to the tournaments. It's the people you're wrestling with every day, the people who wrestle before you, the people who wrestle after you. You need every one of them. And yeah, just to kind of answer that other question, like all of sort of my best moments over my 4 years have all been sort of team victories, and have been about our success as a team. Thinking back to my sophomore year regional tournament, like placing 3rd as a team and winning all 5 matches in that final round, and then even this past regional tournament, where we had like just Dom winning the tournament and lots of other people wrestling above their seed. It's always exciting. There's nothing I love more than like finishing my match and going to cheer for someone else, and that's really a great culture that we have on our team, that everyone will do that.
So Dom, I want to ask you, you go from getting geared up for the NCAA championships to being in this quarantine. So, what become the quarantine activities for you, especially where, your season wasn't over and you were getting ready for the biggest part of it and all the adrenaline, and now you're kind of stuck at home. So what have the quarantine activities been like?
Well, for the most part, I'm just trying to stay busy, because Henry Behagel, the heavyweight on the team, me and him are living together, and they allowed us to grab some weights from the wrestling room into our house. So we have a little place down in the basement for weights and whatnot. So we've been working out Ryan Carr's exercises, bodyweight exercises. They're a lot tougher than you think. I didn't know bodyweight exercises can leave you so sore. So we're doing a lot of those. Other than that, just bought myself a Switch yesterday. I've been playing Legends of Zelda for a little bit. Watching wrestling videos, technique, keeping up with the guys, trying to figure out class schedules for next year. So not really much going on.
So I want to finish up. You guys are our last group here on this entire 2+ hour panel here. So I want to finish up with our 2 final seniors here. We'll start with Finn, and then we'll go to Nathan. Kind of a 2-part question as Dominic's cat joins us. First part is why Hopkins, and then second part, what has Hopkins given you as you move on into the next chapter of your life?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on it earlier with my decision to go with Hopkins and join the team, but it's something that's ring true through my 4 years here. And that's just the idea of the community. And I think that's something that Hopkins Sports does a really great job of doing, is there's just a phenomenal community behind just like all sports. And I can attest for water polo, and I'm sure it's for a lot of different sports, that you really form at Hopkins, we do a really good job of forming connection between you and your team. And then the second part of your question was
just how has it prepared you for the next chapter in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think no one can say that Hopkins won't prepare you academically. But I think definitely in terms of Hopkins sports, I think there's so many valuable lessons to learn from the wins, from the losses, from being on a team. I think definitely having your lowest points and sharing those lowest points with the team helps you grow a ton. But then also having those winning points and winning together with your team are the best memories that I'll ever walk away with. So I can't thank Hopkins enough, and I can't thank my team enough.
So Nathan, to finish up with you, same thing, why Hopkins and what has it given you moving forward?
Yeah, I think, right, I kind of came to Hopkins looking for some college wrestling experience, figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and see how good I could become at wrestling. And I think I was really able to do all that. I had a kind of an interesting experience as I'm the only senior on the team. And since my sophomore year, I've been kind of the only one in my class. And that's provided me some unique opportunities to get really close with people across all grades. And there was always some people in the class of 2019 who I got really close with and who I looked up to and admired a lot. And then this past year as a captain, trying to kind of become good friends with everyone on the team of all classes has really taught me a lot. And just seeing what everyone older than me has gone on to do, and seeing how passionate they were about school and wrestling and how hard they were willing to work has really inspired me to kind of find similar passions in my life as I graduate and go into the world.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking some time tonight for the student athlete panel. Wish you the best going forward and hope everyone is staying safe.
All right.
Thank you.
Go Hop.
So that was our Johns Hopkins D3 student athlete panel. We hope you enjoyed it, got your questions answered, and got to know a lot of our amazing Hopkins student athletes across the board here in Baltimore and at Johns Hopkins University. So everybody out there, I'm Connor Newcomb from Hop TV, and we hope we'll be back with you in the fall season. But until then, stay home, stay safe, and good night.